Yoojun was a high school soccer genius until his eyes started burning during a match and he collapsed, waking up to discover he was colorblind and could never play again. 15 years later, after getting hit by a truck, Yoojun found himself back in time as a teenager with his vision restored, and when he saw a mysterious golden light on the field and passed the ball to it, his teammate scored perfectly, making Yoojun realize he had a second chance to become the soccer star he always dreamed of being. However, before any of this, outside the stadium, reporters ask the Pro League players if there's someone they want to be on the same team with. All of them give the same answer, saying they want to play with Song Yoojun. Since he was a kid, Yoojun's whole life has been all about football. In elementary school, people call him a football genius because he scores goals faster than anyone else. When he goes to middle school, everyone starts calling him the god of football. Now, the entrance test for the Dongil High School football team comes up, and Yoojun decides to join and take part in it too. He plans to show his amazing skills, surprise everyone, and become the ace of the football team. When the entrance test starts, another player steps up and shows his talent by kicking the ball straight into the net. Watching that, one of the guys tells the coach that Hyungmin's hexagonal stats and strong finishing are really good. For the first time in his life, Yoojun feels what it's like to lose, and since he doesn't want to be just a side character in someone else's story, Hyungmin becomes the reason he starts working even harder to improve. From that day on, Yoojun trains every single day, both early in the morning and even after team practice, because nothing matters more to him than becoming stronger. 6 months later, Yoojun is playing in a soccer match with his team as a central midfielder. During the game, he quickly passes the ball to Hyungmin, but an opposing player moves fast and steals it away from him. However, Yoojun decides to take full responsibility for his mistake and runs after the ball, which makes everyone wonder how he still has so much energy even after playing through the first half. When the first half ends, Hyungmin gets upset with Yoojun and tells him to explain that bad pass he made earlier. He scolds Yoojun, saying he should stop sleeping and mess around so much and instead focus on practicing his passes more. Hyungmin also reminds him that there are only 2 months left before the U-17 World Cup team selection. It's an international tournament hosted by FIFA for players under 17, and just thinking about it now gives Yoojun a serious headache. Afterward, the second half begins, but Yoojun's eyes suddenly start to burn, and a moment later, he collapses on the ground. Later that day, the doctor tells Yoojun's parents that he has become colorblind. The doctor explains that Yoojun was lucky to avoid going completely blind, but his eyesight will keep getting worse from now on. Hearing this, Yoojun anxiously asks the doctor if he can still play football, but after hearing the doctor's answer, tears fill his eyes and he starts to cry. 15 years later, Hyung is sitting at a dinner table with Yoojun, and they are both watching a football match of Hyung playing on TV. Yoojun comments that the game is from last season, but if it were him, he would have scored 5 points by now. Hyung laughs and says that Yoojun would have probably been thrown out instead. Starting with the U-17 World Cup, Hyung began gaining worldwide attention, and not only that but he also even became the captain of Tottenham. After a moment, Yoojun asks Hyung how far he thinks he would have gone if he had kept playing football, but Hyung just looks at him and asks if he still has any regrets about quitting. Hyung then drinks even more and tells Yoojun that he were a great midfielder, as that stamina and tenacity of his, it was talent, and if he kept going, he could have made it as a starter in the K-League. However, Yoojun thinks that he is just saying too much, but Hyungmin tells him that if he were better at either dribbling or passing, world class wouldn't have been out of reach. Hearing that, Yoojun finally gets it that Hyung actually means that he is just a midfielder who is really bad at dribbling the ball and passing it to his teammates, which basically means that he is calling him an idiot. After that happens, Hyungmin starts feeling super dizzy because he drinks way too much, so Yoojun decides to help him out and make sure he gets into the car. While Yoojun is walking back to his home, he keeps thinking about his life and how all he has now are just a bunch of regrets that keep bothering him, and he keeps wishing that he never got sick with his illness and that he could still see colors the way he used to see them before everything changed. At that moment, it starts raining, so Yoojun starts running really fast towards the street to get away from the rain, but then a big truck comes out of nowhere and drives straight into him. However, even on the verge of death, all he can think about is football and wishes that just once he could play on the field once more. Suddenly, Yoojun opens his eyes and realizes he can see colors again, and not only that but he also sees Hyungmin standing in front of him. Confused, Yoojun quickly asks why Hyungmin looks like a high school student, but Hyungmin tells him that he suddenly collapsed. Looking around, Yoojun notices the Dongil High School football jersey he's wearing and realizes this is the same field where he collapsed years ago. Feeling excited, Yoojun decides to play football again and starts running with the ball, filled with pure happiness to be moving freely after such a long time. Just then, a player from the opposing team tries to steal the ball, but Yoojun quickly passes it to Youngju. Suddenly, he notices a golden light shining nearby and aims his kick toward it. The ball lands perfectly at Hyung's feet, and without hesitation, Hyung takes the shot and scores a flawless goal. Afterward, the match ends and Yoojun can't believe that he actually played soccer again after such a long time. What feels strange to him is that this doesn't seem like a dream at all. He starts to think that he has really gone back to the past and that he can continue playing soccer from now on. Just then, Hyungmin walks over and asks with a grin what Yoo-jun is doing there, standing around by himself. Yoo-jun notices that Hyungmin seems to be in a really good mood, and Hyungmin tells him that he'll let it slide this time because of that great pass earlier, which he honestly didn't expect from him. However, Yoo-jun thinks that Hyungmin must be talking about the past that was surrounded by that golden light, and what surprises him even more is that he hasn't seen that light again since then. He starts to wonder if the golden pillar might actually be his hidden skills finally starting to show themselves. While he's lost in thought, Hyungmin starts walking away and tells him that he's heading home since they have practice tomorrow too. He also tells Yoo-jun to hurry up and get some rest before the next day's training. Later that night, Yoo-jun managed to get back home and tried to enter his house password, which he clearly remembers. When he enters the house, he gets surprised to see that the house is exactly like it was in the past, and then he meets his parents who looks young. Afterward, Yoo-jun's mom makes dinner for them, and seeing that, Yoo-jun thinks that the side dishes that his mom made, he haven't been able to eat them since he started living alone. However, when he takes a bite the kimchi that she makes, he suddenly figures out that her really bad cooking skills are exactly the same as they were back then. After that, Yoo-jun's dad starts asking him if he thought about the thing that he said to him earlier, but Yoo-jun gets confused and asks him what thing he is talking about. So, his dad asks him again if he thought about quitting soccer like he told him to do. When Yoo-jun hears those words from his father, he suddenly realizes that this is the exact time when his father wanted him to stop playing soccer and start studying instead. He remembers that in his past life before everything changed, he actually quit soccer because of his sickness that makes him really sick, and he focuses all his time on studying really hard, and later on he ends up taking over his father's business and running it himself. Yoo-jun begins thinking inside his mind that if this was the same past as it used to be before, he most likely would have said to his father that he needs to think about it for some time first. Right now, everything feels completely different to him because he can finally see all the colors again, and his body feels perfectly healthy, filled with strength and energy. Feeling confident and sure of himself, he looks straight at his father and says that he's going to keep playing soccer, no matter what happens or what anyone says. The next day, Yoo-jun goes back to the soccer field to play soccer again, where the coach tells all of them that they are going to divide themselves into different teams and hold a practice battle against each other to see how they do. Yoo-jun and Hyungmin end up being on the same team together, and Hyungmin looks at Yoo-jun and tells him that if he passes the ball to him like he did yesterday during their last practice, he is going to carry him and the whole team like a really fast high-speed bus that goes super quick. After that, the match finally begins, with Yoo-jun taking control of the ball right from the start. As he dribbles forward, he starts wondering if he was just imagining things yesterday and making up stuff in his head about having special skills. Still, he decides to focus on the game and passes the ball around to his teammates. He kicks it over to another player on his team, who then passes it forward to Joo-chan. Joo-chan catches the ball smoothly and starts sprinting toward the goal, trying to score a point for their team. However, right before he is able to get any closer to where he wants to go, another player who is named Jaeyoung-soo from the other team suddenly comes rushing right in front of him and blocks his whole path completely. Without any kind of warning, Yoo-jun comes running from the side and calls out to Joo-chan, telling him that he needs to pass the ball over to him. When Joo-chan sees this happening, he very quickly passes the ball back over to Yoo-jun, and then Yoo-jun right away starts running straight ahead. Yoo-jun thinks that he successfully got the ball, but the situation that is now in front of him looks pretty difficult because there are two players from the other team standing right in front of him. All of a sudden, another golden pillar shows up in front of Yoo-jun once again, but he thinks that the space is way smaller and narrower compared to the last time he saw it before. He wonders if he can even send the ball to that spot accurately, but even with that thought in his mind, he still decides to take the shot and kicks the ball toward that area. The ball flies straight in Hyungmin's direction, and he takes the shot, but the goalkeeper manages to catch it just in time. At that moment, Yoo-jun finally realizes the true meaning behind the golden pillar and what it really represents. Nature of the golden pillar. Afterward, the ball bounces off one of the opponent team's players, but Yoo-jun quickly manages to take control of it again. As he runs on the field, he starts thinking that if his last shot enters that golden zone, Hyungmin would have definitely scored the goal. That is when it finally clicks in his mind, as he figures out the secret behind the golden zone and how it works. He realizes that the golden zone only appears when he has the ball in his possession, and it shows up whenever there is a real chance to score a goal for the team. Meanwhile, during the match, Hyungmin charges straight toward the goalkeeper while the other players do everything they can block his path and stop him. Seeing the opening, Yoo-jun quickly passes the ball to Hyungmin and the ball travels right through the golden zone perfectly. The moment the ball reaches him where he is standing, Hyungmin kicks it with his full force and all his strength, sending it flying straight into the goal successfully and scoring a point for their team. At that exact moment, Yoo-jun suddenly realizes something really important about his ability, that whenever the ball enters the golden zone that he can see, Hyungmin always manages to score without fail every single time. Yoo-jun starts thinking to himself that with this special ability that he has now, he is completely unstoppable and cannot be defended against by anyone on the other team no matter how hard they try. At the same time, a guy is watching Yoo-jun very carefully from the office window up above. The guy thinks that it is a killer pass right at the exact moment as Hyungmin takes off running, and he notices that Yoo-jun has that instant decision-making skill and even has a really wide field of vision that lets him see the whole field at once. The guy turns out to be the U-17's national team coach named Yoon-won watching the game. Later that same day, Hyungmin and Yoo-jun go out together to eat some hot dogs where Hyungmin looks at him and asks him if he is really the same Yoo-jun that he knows. He says that it's because his passing skills today during the match were way above his usual level. Hyungmin starts explaining to him that he's always been a box-to-box player ever since they first started playing together, so there's no way his playing style could suddenly change and become all about passing in just a few days. Hearing that, Yoo-jun looks back at him and asks if he should just stop passing the ball to him then, since it seems to be bothering him so much. However, Yoo-jun starts wondering that from someone else's point of view looking at the situation, he truly understands that it really must seem totally unbelievable just like Hyungmin is saying right now, because he has always been known as a box-to-box player throughout his entire soccer career and everyone knows that about him. Box-to-box is a position where someone sprints like crazy from their own penalty box to the opponents, supporting both defense and offense, and it is perfect for him, as his stamina is his greatest strength on the field. Then, Hyungmin tells Yoo-jun that the U-17 national team coach drops by earlier to watch them play, but Yoo-jun thinks that around this time, he uses to visit the school every day to monitor Hyungmin's condition and performance. Hyungmin then tells Yoo-jun that if he keeps playing like he does today and catches the coach's attention, then they could make it to the U-17 team together as teammates. The next day, Hyungmin and Yoo-jun gets back to the field to do some basic fitness training, but then they notices their coach bringing a new soccer team. When they see that, Hyungmin suddenly realizes that those players are from the Seoul youth team and they start wondering what they are doing here at their practice field because there was not any notice or announcement about a match happening today. Right at that moment, Lee Yoon-won also arrives at the field and the coach asks if he is here today to check up on Hyungmin and see how he is doing, but Yoon-won says that there is actually one extra favor that he would really like to ask him about. A little while later, the coach gathers everyone together and tells the entire team that today's regular training session is going to be replaced with a friendly match against the Seoul youth team instead of their normal practice. He then turns around and shows them the board and says that the lineup for the match is posted up on the board so they can all go check it out and see where they are playing, and he also mentions that the warm-up period starts in exactly 10 minutes from now. Meanwhile, Yoo-jun turns to Hyungmin and tells him very seriously that every single pass that he makes during the game is going to come his way today because the coach Yoon-won is here at their field today watching them play and so he absolutely has to score all of them without missing any. However, Hyungmin just looks at him and tells him to go look at the lineup board that the coach just showed them a minute ago. But Yoo-jun thinks to himself that there is probably nothing wrong with the lineup at all, because the positions are most likely the same as they usually are during their normal matches and games. He suddenly looks more carefully at the list and notices something strange and realizes that Hyungmin's name is actually not on the lineup list at all, and he is not playing today for some reason. It turns out it is all Yoon-won's plan because he wants to see if the pass that he pulls off yesterday, he can do it without an S-class striker like Hyungmin, and he wants to see if Yoo-jun is really made to play in the U-17 lineup with his skills. Afterward, the Youth Football Club is an organization founded to discover and train the next generation of soccer stars for the future. There are countless youth teams out there in the country, but Seoul Youth, led by Lee Yoon-won, is in a league of its own compared to others. The match then begins with Yoo-jun trying to get the ball from the opponent team's player but he passes it to his teammate before Yoo-jun can steal it. The guy who receives the pass turns out to be a real math genius who calculates each and every part of the shot and how it works inside his head with precision. After calculating about a pass for quite a long time, he chooses to shoot a long pass that goes to another player on his team, who then shoots and makes a goal successfully. The real reason why Seoul Youth is so dominant and strong on the field is because of their midfield player named Sungmin, whose calculations and measurements are completely flawless and perfect and never wrong at all. Last night before the game, Yoo-jun searched information about Sungmin online on the internet to learn more about him. He found out and discovered that Sungmin is the National Youth Soccer Tournament #1 player when it comes to pass success rate and accuracy, and he is also the MVP of the entire tournament and the best player overall. Yoo-jun starts wondering that when it comes to passing the ball to teammates, Sungmin is seriously something really special and different from everyone else. However, his position on the team is still the same exact position as his own position, which is a central midfielder on the field during matches. On top of that, Yoo-jun thinks that at this rate and the way things are going, Sungmin is like the strongest and most powerful U-17 Cup candidate out there right now, and if he really wants to replace Sungmin and make it to the U-17 Cup team then he is going to need an overwhelming passing ability that is better than everyone else. Yoojun knows deep down that back then in his past life, it would have been completely impossible for him to achieve something like this, but as long as he has Hyungmin playing with him and the Golden Zone ability that he can see, he can easily get to the U-17 team. Back in the present, Yoojun passes the ball to Dogun, but the other team's player blocks it and the ball gets back to Yoojun, who hits it again towards Dogun, but the guy blocks it again. Yoojun keeps passing the ball back to him as the other team's player blocks it every time, but at this rate, Dogun, who is a high striker, gets frustrated because Yoojun's passing rate is 0% successful. Yoojun thinks that he is screwed because without Hyungmin playing, he cannot see the golden zone appear, and if he cannot see the zone, a killer pass is impossible for him to make. Just then, Sungmin comes running toward him with the ball and quickly passes it to one of his teammates, who tries to score a goal. However, the ball hits the pole and bounces back into the field. Watching that, Yoojun thinks to himself that if Hyungmin had made that pass, it probably would have been a goal, so he starts wondering if a pass like that is even possible without using the golden zone. After that, Youngwon gives Sungmin a thumbs up for making such an amazing pass, and seeing that, Yoojun feels a bit jealous and thinks that he has to make an even more incredible pass next time. Meanwhile, Hyungmin and another player from the team are sitting together and eating ice cream, when the guy asks him if he thinks that their midfield players are getting totally overwhelmed and completely dominated right now. He wonders if it is because the two of them who are the core of the team are not playing in the match today. Hyungmin says that with the two main forwards sitting out and not playing, it is probably really hard to create chances and opportunities for the team, and because of that situation, the midfield players are taking all the pressure and struggling a lot. However, the other guy mentions that Sungmin is firing off passes like crazy and doing really well, so it might be brutal and tough for the other players on their team, but Hyungmin still thinks that there is still a chance for them to do well in this game. At the same time, Yoojun gets control and possession of the ball out on the field, and he starts thinking that if he can thread and make the pass straight to Dogun perfectly and accurately, he will definitely catch Coach Youngwon's attention and impress him with his skills. All of a sudden, two players from the opposite team block Yoojun and get in his way, but then Dogun arrives and comes to help him out. Yoojun tries to pass the ball to him by bouncing it off and hitting an opponent player's shoulder to redirect it. However, the ball doesn't end up going to Dogun like he planned because the other team player gets to it first and intercepts the pass. In the end, the ball gets to Sungmin, who then calculates his coordinates and position before he hits and makes a long pass again to move the ball forward. The ball then gets to the same guy from before, who scores another goal for his team and adds more points. Yoojun realizes that his mistake and error led directly to their goal, and this is a really fatal blow and huge setback for the team. Afterward, the first half of the game gets over and ends, and Yoojun blames himself for even letting and allowing the other team to score a counterattack goal with that really crappy and terrible last pass he made. Just then, Hyungmin walks up to him and asks what is wrong with him and what his problem is. He wonders and questions if he is doing this on purpose to mess things up. Hearing that, Yoojun says that he has to do what he is good at and focus on his strengths to grab Coach Youngwon's attention, but Hyungmin asks back if he will only go with passing and stick to that one thing for achieving that goal. Yoojun says that it is because he is only good at passing and nothing else really, but then Hyungmin walks away from him, saying that he came here to give him advice so that he does not blame him later on for not warning him. 15 minutes later, the second half begins and Yoojun still wonders if there is something else that he is actually good at besides just passing, and he curses and blames Hyungmin for not telling him earlier and being more specific with his advice when he had the chance. While he is busy thinking about all of this stuff in his head and not paying full attention, the opponent team's player takes the ball away from him and gets possession, and Yoojun realizes and understands that he cannot and must not let Sungmin's killer passes go through and succeed anymore because they are too dangerous. To stop him, he has to block as many passes to Sungmin as possible and cut off his opportunities and chances to control the game and make those accurate calculations he is known for. He quickly runs to the guy with the ball and tries to take the ball away from him, but the player passes the ball to his teammate before Yoojun can get it. Yoojun runs up to him next, and the player from the other team notices that Yoojun is super fast, rushing forward like he's charging in at full speed, but there's no one nearby or close enough to catch the ball safely. All of a sudden, he spots Sungmin calling out and asking for a pass to him, so he passes the ball back to Sungmin to keep possession and continue the play. Afterward, Yoojun runs straight toward the player with the ball, so that player quickly passes it back to another teammate, who notices that Sungmin's pass accuracy is slowly starting to drop. Meanwhile, the coach turns to Youngwon and asks if he thinks Yoojun is doing okay. The coach admits that at first, he was really torn between choosing Yoojun or Sungmin when it came to their passing skills. He explains that maybe because of that earlier mistake, Yoojun, who is usually known for his accurate and sharp passes, has now turned the game into more of a stamina match instead. The only reason the coach can think of is that Yoojun might have started to lose confidence. However, he reminds Youngwon that Yoojun was originally a box-to-box player, something Youngwon had completely forgotten because of the way Yoojun has been playing and positioning himself lately. On the other hand, Yoo-jun remembers Hyungmin's words from the original timeline when he told him and said that he had exceptional stamina and fighting spirit that set him apart from others. Yoo-jun then manages to block and get in front of Sungmin and tells him to give him the ball, but Sungmin passes the ball to someone else on his team to avoid the pressure. Due to his stamina strain and exhaustion, his balance is off and not stable, and because of that the ball is going and heading somewhere weird and unexpected instead of to his teammate. Yoo-jun quickly realizes that it is a missed pass and a mistake, so he starts running and sprinting towards it as fast as he can, and the ball gets to and reaches Yoo-jun's teammate, who gains possession. Seeing that happen and play out on the field in front of him, Hyungmin thinks and realizes that Yoo-jun is pressuring aggressively and relentlessly with crazy stamina and endurance that seems endless, and he has never seen anyone not crumble or break down under that kind of intense and heavy pressure before in his entire life. After that happens, the player passes the ball back to Yoo-jun, who thinks and realizes to himself that this is the 88th minute of the second half and his last chance and opportunity to catch and grab Yoonwon's eye and attention. He then rushes and charges towards the goalkeeper, where all the players are surrounded and crowded from all sides and directions, and Yoo-jun thinks to himself that no matter how he looks at it and sees the situation, he is surrounded on all sides with nowhere to pass the ball to safely. Suddenly, the golden zone starts showing up and appearing right in front of him on the field, and Yoo-jun gets worried because Hyungmin is sitting on the bench right now and not playing, so how did this golden zone open up and appear for him to use in this moment? Instead of thinking about it too much and wasting time, Yoo-jun decides to kick the ball forward because he is curious and wants to know who is coming and running to that spot if it is not Hyungmin like usual. As the ball flies closer toward the golden zone area, Do-gun jumps high into the air and heads it straight into the net, scoring a clean header goal. In the end, the match finishes with Don-gil-hye managing to equalize and tie the score. At the same time, Coach Yoon-won makes his decision about who will play the central midfielder position for the U-17 Cup team. Later that evening after the game, Yoo-jun sits in the locker room all by himself alone and thinks about that domain and golden zone that appeared during the match earlier today. He understands that it was actually real and not just his imagination, and it can even show up and appear in places where Hyungmin is not present or around at all. He further wonders and questions if that is the case and it works that way, then why did it suddenly appear and show up in the second half of the game and not before that? Suddenly, Yoo-jun watches the match replay on his laptop to review what happened, and he realizes and notices that Do-gun is a striker who just uses his body and physical strength to force his way through defenders and past opponents to get to the goal. After that, Yoo-jun decides and chooses to check the clip of Hyungmin where he perfectly runs into position to receive a pass at the right time and place. Yoo-jun realizes that he always knew and thought that Hyungmin was something special and talented, but this is just absurd and crazy. This is not even on a high school level anymore with how good he is. However, watching the footage and clips made it obvious to Yoo-jun that the golden zone means and represents a chance to score a goal for the team. On top of that, Yoo-jun wonders if Do-gun is more of a tank player as he holds his position and stays strong rather than creating chances for goals and opportunities, and he is not exactly the ideal striker to take advantage of the golden zone and make the most out of those scoring chances. On the other hand, Hyungmin constantly moves into spaces where he can receive the ball, and he is the perfect fit for the golden zone. Yoo-jun then gets frustrated as he thinks that depending on the striker and who is up front, even a great ability and skill can go to waste, so it is not some all-powerful foolproof skill after all like he thought it was. Just then, Coach Yoon-won walks into the locker room and asks Yoo-jun if they can talk together about something important. Later that night at home, Yoo-jun's mom cooks burned food because she does not know how to cook well. However, Yoo-jun's dad sees that he looks so down and sad today, so Yoo-jun's mom tells him that he has been acting this way since he got home from school earlier. Yoo-jun's mom then asks him if there are other kids that are picking on him and bullying him at school. But Yoo-jun then smiles and tells them both that he got chosen for the U-17 national team to represent his country. Hearing that, Yoo-jun's dad gets excited and happy as he thinks that he might be going to be on TV now and get famous, so he quickly calls all his friends on the phone and tells them about Yoo-jun getting selected for the national team. After that, Yoo-jun's parents show their support for him and Yoo-jun feels glad that he decided to play soccer again and give it another chance. The next day, Yoo-jun and Hyungmin start training together on the field, and Hyungmin mentions that he heard that he met Coach Yoon-won yesterday to talk, so Yoo-jun explains that he is going to play in the U-17 Nationals tournament. Just then, they hear someone arguing and having a heated conversation, and the people turn out to be Yoo-chan and Jong-soo who are fighting about something. Seeing that, Hyungmin asks him if he forgot that they have got two factions and groups in the soccer club that don't get along. Yoo-jun remembers that one side is the U-17 Cup crew with Hyungmin and Joo-chan on that team, and the other is the anti-U-17 bunch headed and led by Jong-soo who opposes them. However, some of them like Yoo-jun get along with both sides and stay neutral, but there are people like Jong-soo who cannot stand the U-17 guys and really dislike them. Hyungmin explains that Jong-soo already dislikes their group and has problems with them, and Joo-chan keeps nitpicking him and bothering him, so that is the reason it exploded and turned into this big argument. After that moment, Yoo-jun sees a red glow in Jong-soo's eyes that looks strange, but it disappears quickly, so he wonders if he just imagined it in his head or if there is another domain out there that he doesn't know about yet. Just then, the coach shows up and scolds the other group for fighting in on the ground during practice time, and Hyungmin quickly tells Yoo-jun to run and get out of there before the coach even scolds them for no reason even though they weren't involved. Yoo-jun still thinks about and wonders about that crimson flash and red glow in Jong-soo's eyes and wonders what it could be and what it means for him. After that happens, Hyungmin asks him if he knows that the national team training starts tomorrow and begins soon, and Yoo-jun knows about it and is aware of the schedule. He still asks Hyungmin and questions if he thinks that the national squad has stuff like this too and the same problems with groups. Hyungmin understands that he must be asking about factions and divided groups that don't get along, so he smiles at him and tells him that there are no factions there and everyone gets along on the national team without problems. Finally, the U-17 national team training day arrives and coach Young-won introduces Yoo-jun to his new team, saying that he is the new midfielder that is going to be joining them and playing with them from now on. The team shows no emotions or excitement and just stands there coldly without welcoming him. At that moment, Yoo-jun realizes that there is no fraction or divided groups here like at his school, but there is discrimination. Later on, everyone starts practicing and so does Yoo-jun, who feels the cold atmosphere from earlier that is still hanging around. He thinks that there is no way that Coach Young-won does not know about it and is unaware of this tension, so why is he just letting it go and not doing anything about it to fix the problem? The guy who is practicing with Yoo-jun on the field mentions that he heard that he came in after replacing Sungmin and taking his spot on the team. He further says that even though Sungmin's stamina is not that great and he gets tired easily during games, he thinks that his passing was amazing and really impressive and accurate with all those calculations he does in his head while playing. Yoo-jun also tries to act smart and confident and tells him and says that he knows that his passes were really no joke and were very good. Yoo-jun says and explains that he will work hard and put in effort and do his best so he will not be a burden to the team either and will pull his weight. Suddenly, the guy shoots a fastball at Yoo-jun's head with force, and Yoo-jun then dodges it quickly and falls down on the ground to avoid getting hit by the ball. The guy tells Yoo-jun and says to him that he has great instincts and reflexes that helped him dodge, and he aimed it at him on purpose to test him and see how he would react to danger. He adds and explains that they do not need guys who just work hard and try their best every time, but they need guys who are actually good and skilled at playing soccer and have real talent. The boy's name is Min-sung and he is a right fullback player who plays defense for the team and protects the goal. At that moment, Yoo-jun understands why the coach did that and allowed this behavior, as this is his way of telling him to earn recognition and respect through skill and proving himself to the others. Later that afternoon, Coach Young-won announces that today's training will be tactical drills and exercises, and the team will proceed and continue as discussed with the tactical coach who helps plan their strategies. The teams are split into two sections and Min-sung, who is in another team, whispers to him to give it his best and try hard out there. However, Yoo-jun understands that Min-sung is the 2022 World Cup national team fullback player with his explosive speed that comes from a small frame and body. Moreover, his precise tackling skills are very accurate, and without a doubt he is an A-class defender who is really talented. After that, Coach Young-won tells them that the match will start in 5 minutes from now, so they should warm up and get ready to play their best. The coach then calls over Yoo-jun and tells him that the position for him in this match will be free roll. This is a position that roams between attack and defense without a fixed spot, and it requires creative passing, dribbling, shooting and variety of skills. After that, the match starts and begins, and Yoo-jun realizes that he is not going to get the ball at all because of how furiously everyone else is playing around him. Suddenly, Yoo-jun notices a player running straight at him, and since it is too late to dodge, the guy crashes into him, which sends Yoo-jun sliding across the ground. The guy whose name is Jong-won asks him if he is alright after the collision, and then he gets back to the match. Just then, Hyungmin also shows up and asks if he is okay after that, but Yoo-jun says and tells him that he is just a bit sore from the hit, but Hyungmin says and explains that he meant the fact that the others are not passing the ball to him at all during the game. He thinks that if they saw his passing skills and what he can do on the field, they would be blown away and impressed by his abilities, so he asks if he wants him to go talk to them and convince them to give him chances to play. However, Yoo-jun thinks to himself that it would be a faster and easier way to solve this problem and get their respect. Then Hyungmin realizes that they might talk to him eventually on their own, so he tries to leave and walk away from the situation. Yoo-jun says and tells him that he is going to prove his worth himself without any help from anyone else and show them what he can do. After that happens, Yoo-jun wonders if the ball will not come to him by itself and naturally, then he will go get it and take it himself from the other players. Yoo-jun then drops all the way back to the defensive line to position himself better, which makes the other team's player wonder and think that he is a free role player who can move around. Yoo-jun tells him he is going to steal the ball and push forward with it, but the guy smiles at him and quickly escapes from there and passes the ball to another player, who then passes the ball back to him to keep control. After that, Yoo-jun tries to run after him and catch up, but the guy throws the ball to another player who tries to score a goal, but he misses it as the ball hits the post and bounces away from the net. On the other hand, Yoo-jun is shocked to see and realize that the physicality, speed and passing and decision-making and everything of that player was a step above him and better than his own skills. After that, the match continues and Yoo-jun runs after the ball like a maniac trying to get possession, but the other players pass the balls to each other quickly. He wonders if their passing tempo is way too fast for him to keep up with, but since this is the national team, it should be like that and at this level. On top of that, Yoo-jun realizes that normally, the passing process goes through 3 steps, which are receiving the pass, checking the surroundings, and making the pass to the next player. After that, the guy from before quickly runs through them as he receives the pass from his teammate smoothly, and Yoo-jun thinks that these guys skip step 2 entirely and don't check their surroundings before passing. He believes and thinks that they are constantly aware of each other's positions throughout the play and at all times, so that is the reason it is helping them make the pass quickly without hesitation. However, with Yoo-jun's current ability and skill level, it is impossible to keep up with that tempo and speed, but that does not mean he can just stand here doing nothing and give up. Yoo-jun then quickly runs after the guy and chases him down, and he manages to catch up to him on the field, but the guy asks and questions if he does not get tired of charging blindly without thinking. The guy then asks Yoo-jun and says to him that there are things he cannot accomplish even if he keeps at it and tries over and over again, and then he passes the ball back to one of his teammates to continue the play and move forward. Jong-sik steals the pass and intercepts it, and he tells the other guy that there are also things he can accomplish by keeping at it and not giving up easily. After that, the other players start to surround Jong-sik and close in on him from all sides and directions, but then he passes the ball back to Yoo-jun to see what he can do with the opportunity he is giving him. After getting the ball in his possession and control, Yoo-jun runs straight towards the goalkeeper with determination, thinking that the passes of a genius midfielder like Jong-sik are something special and different from regular passes. Suddenly, 3 golden zones appear in front of Yoo-jun on the field, and he realizes that the national team really is on another level of skill because 3 golden zones appear at the same time because of them and their positioning. The golden zones are far away from him and not close enough, so he has to push in closer before he passes the ball to anyone. Suddenly, another player appears in front of Yoo-jun and blocks his path, but Yoo-jun wonders and thinks if he can break through with his dribbling skills or should he just play it safe with a pass to a teammate. However, Yoo-jun realizes that if he does not prove his worth now then it is going to be never and he will lose his chance, so he just rushes towards the guy and breaks through the right side. But it turns out that it was just a feint and a fake move, and the real breakthrough is from the left side instead. At that point, Yoo-jun thinks that he easily passed through that guy and now he just needs to move forward and keep going, but the guy catches up quickly and chases him down. Seeing him coming back at him, Yoo-jun gets nervous because the guy is fast despite losing balance earlier in the play, but now he thinks and wonders about which leg he would tackle to stop him and get the ball. Out of nowhere, Yoo-jun can see the red light and an arrow which is connected to his left leg and shows him something important about the next move. The guy then tries to get the ball and take it away from Yoo-jun with his tackle, and Yoo-jun notices and realizes that the guy's left leg was in the direction of the arrow that he saw before and predicted. After that happens on the field, Yoo-jun quickly runs as fast as he can while the player keeps following him and chasing him down closely, wondering which leg he should tackle this time to get the ball back. However, Yoo-jun notices that same red light and arrow on the player's right leg this time around, and its direction is a tackle from straight ahead coming right at him. Yoo-jun then quickly jumps up in the air as he knows and understands that the path of the tackle is straight and coming at him, which shocks the opponent player and surprises him. After that move, Yoo-jun quickly throws the ball into the second golden zone where another player runs to get it and reach the spot. The player turns out to be Hyungmin and he quickly shoots the ball like before with power and accuracy, and the ball goes straight into the goal net, which makes everyone realize and understand that these new rookies are actually good and talented players. On the other hand, Coach Young-won thinks and realizes that Yoo-jun is special because he is actually holding his own even among the national team players who are skilled, and for this U17 Cup he is looking forward to it and excited to see what happens. Min-sung stares at Yoo-jun with fiery eyes and calls out to him, but when Yoo-jun sees those burning eyes looking at him, he suddenly remembers a previous fight and realizes those eyes look familiar to him. Yoo-jun wonders why Min-sung's eyes look exactly like the eyes of people he saw from their earlier fight and questions what this strange similarity means about Min-sung wanting to start something with him. Then Min-sung grabs Yoo-jun's hand and shows an excited smile on his face while telling Yoo-jun that he really likes him as a player. Yoo-jun asks what Min-sung means, and Min-sung keeps smiling while explaining that Yoo-jun is the first person who manages to break through his defense in just one try, so he acknowledges Yoo-jun's skills. Yoo-jun scratches the back of his head and thanks Min-sung in an uncomfortable way before Min-sung turns around to leave and wishes Yoo-jun good luck. The soccer ball sits under Min-sung's feet and is clearly under his control. Another player waves his hand and calls out to Min-sung, asking him to kick the ball over. Min-sung responds with a blank look and questions whether the person really wants him to kick it, then immediately kicks the soccer ball with huge force straight at the other player's face, making that player shout about his face getting hit. Yoo-jun watches this happen and asks whether Min-sung does it on purpose, but Min-sung keeps smiling and explains that he does it because he acknowledges that person's abilities. After hearing this, Yoo-jun stops moving and thinks to himself about whether Kim Min-sung might be crazy. Because Min-sung supports Yoo-jun during the first half of training, the second half goes smoothly without many problems. Yoo-jun's teammates start passing the ball to him more often, and Yoo-jun uses the red zone ability to prevent Min-sung from stealing the ball from him. Min-sung tries to steal the ball again but fails and yells angrily that Yoo-jun only gets lucky. Yoo-jun then helps his team score a goal by using his yellow zone ability perfectly, and with that, his first training session with the national team finally ends. He thinks about how hard training is and realizes his whole body feels too tired to move anymore, and this is just the first day. When he looks around, he's surprised to see that his teammates still look full of energy even after all the intense practice. Hyungmin notices Yoo-jun looking around constantly and asks whether Yoo-jun feels completely exhausted from the training. Yoo-jun quickly denies this and insists that he is perfectly fine. Hyungmin laughs and tells Yoo-jun not to hide his true condition because he can easily tell by looking at his face. Hyungmin explains that on the first day of training with the national team, everyone becomes exhausted both mentally and physically, but it is good that Yoo-jun gets recognized by others on his very first day, adding that it takes him 2 whole days to get that recognition. Yoo-jun looks at Hyungmin with a blank face and asks what he means, but Hyungmin just gives a mean smile and mutters a curse under his breath. Yoo-jun thanks him anyway, but Hyungmin frowns and says that if Yoo-jun is really thankful, he should prove it with his actions instead of words. Yoo-jun answers that maybe he'll show that sincerity next time, and then he starts thinking about how people are finally beginning to notice his skills. Yoo-jun thinks about how the red zone ability helps him the most during training because it shows him the direction of where opponents will move and which foot they will use to kick the ball, and the red zone even displays the exact timing of when these movements will happen. Yoo-jun admits that he does not fully understand why this ability suddenly appears in his life, but he thinks he might understand its general meaning. Yoo-jun guesses that if the yellow zone represents opportunity during plays, then the red zone must represent danger during defensive movements, and because the red zone appears specifically during defenders' movements, this idea fits well with what he observes. Yoo-jun wonders about the yellow and red colors and questions how many more different colors might exist in this system and why these colored zones appear to him in the first place. Yoo-jun knows that there are still many unsolved mysteries around these abilities, but he decides that he will deal with them one problem at a time. The scene switches to another location where the training coach yells out orders and commands the players to hurry up and keep going. After announcing a 10-minute break, Yoo-jun immediately falls onto the grass and groans in exhaustion, thinking that he would rather die than continue. Yoo-jun sighs and thinks that it has been 3 full weeks since he first joined the national team, and over these past 3 weeks, he trains incredibly hard alongside everyone else on the team, and among all his teammates, there are a few players who are quite amazing in their abilities. Jang-suk sits down next to Yoo-jun on the grass and complains about how he is going to die from exhaustion. Yoo-jun sits up and greets him, then keeps thinking about how Jang-suk represents South Korea in the midfielder position and how one day he will play professionally for the Bundesliga league. Youngwon comes over and gives Yoo-jun some water while asking what else they can do besides keep going with training. Yoo-jun takes the water and thanks Youngwon for arriving just in time. Youngwon smiles and jokingly says that if he gives Yoo-jun water, then Yoo-jun has to pass the ball to him during games. Yoo-jun jokingly replies that Youngwon should take the water back then, but Youngwon protests and Yoo-jun finally accepts the water. While drinking, Yoo-jun thinks about how he never expects to meet Moon Youngwon, who is the top striker player in the entire K-League. Someone calls out that Youngwon and Yoo-jun's passes will only be for specific people, and Min-sung agrees with this from behind them. Yoo-jun asks why Kim Min-sung and Hyungmin are present instead of resting during their break time, and Hyungmin immediately replies that just being there is their form of resting, while Min-sung keeps agreeing from behind. Hyungmin sits down, unwraps a lollipop, and asks whether everyone packs their belongings yet. Yoo-jun asks with a blank expression what Hyungmin means about packing things, and Hyungmin immediately calls Yoo-jun an idiot and explains that the packing is for the upcoming Sendai Cup tournament. Yoo-jun suddenly realizes and mutters that the day of departure is almost arriving. The Sendai Cup is a youth football tournament that gets held in the city of Sendai in Japan, and the participants include teams from Brazil, France, Japan, and South Korea. In Yoo-jun's previous life, South Korea's team loses matches to both Brazil and France, only managing to win against Japan's team, and the team returns home with a record of 1 win and 2 losses. Although the Sendai Cup is just a youth tournament, it is still a big deal for Yoo-jun because how well he performs will determine whether he gets selected for the under-17 team. Yoo-jun sees with his own eyes in his past life how Hyungmin rises to fame after the under-17 tournament, and Yoo-jun knows that he absolutely has to leave his mark at the Sendai Cup tournament. 2 days later, the team arrives at the airport and lands in Japan. Yoo-jun looks around and comments that this is Sendai. Yoo-jun turns to ask Hyungmin whether he wants to go anywhere since they have free time today. Hyungmin replies that he plans to analyze the economic situation of Japanese candy stores. Yoo-jun stares in complete shock and asks whether Hyungmin is serious about that plan, then declares that he is definitely not going with him. Yoo-jun then asks Jong-suk what his plans are for the day. Jong-suk looks at the map in his hand and replies that he is thinking about trying authentic ramen. Yoo-jun responds excitedly that this is a good idea and agrees to join him, and the two of them head to a ramen restaurant together. Yoo-jun finishes the whole bowl of noodles completely and puts the bowl down, saying that the food was delicious. Then Yoo-jun suddenly realizes he forgot his money at the hotel and asks if Jong-suk can pay for him first. Jong-suk frowns and says he only brought 200 yen with him. The owner looks at them with a threatening gaze and asks if the customers can pay for their food. Yoo-jun gets scared and hears something behind him and glances down to look outside where someone is playing with a ball confidently. It is a boy casually dribbling the ball around another guy, and he smiles and says that if anyone can steal the ball from him, he will pay 10 times the bet amount. Yoo-jun thinks that if he can steal the ball, he will win 10 times the bet and this is his opportunity. Yoo-jun comes forward, takes out 200 yen, and says that the two of them will challenge him together, and then the three of them stand in a circle formation ready to begin. Afterward, the guy explains the rules of the game, saying they would have to steal the ball from him within 30 seconds, and it is over, but if they succeed in stealing the ball, they will get 1,000 yen as a prize. Yoo-jun then tells Jong-suk that if they steal the ball within 30 seconds, he will give them 1,000 yen, and Jong-suk thinks that Yoo-jun's Japanese skills are amazing, but it is all thanks to Yoo-jun's father who works at a trading company. The guy then asks them who will go first in the challenge, so Yoo-jun says that he is going first to try it. The guy then quickly charges towards Yoo-jun, who wonders if this is some kind of provocation, but the worst part is that he cannot see the ball yet with his eyes. He realizes that the ball is right there in place, which shocks him, but the guy starts laughing, saying he is just joking around with him. Yoo-jun tells him that this time he will go first and try to steal, and the guy starts smiling, saying this is how he should come at him to make it fun and exciting. Yoo-jun then charges at him to try to steal the ball, but the guy uses his leg techniques to just move the ball away from him easily. Yoo-jun thinks that he reads the left side and now he just needs to steal the ball, but just as he tries to steal the ball, the guy sends the ball backwards away from him. Yoo-jun again tries to steal the ball, but the timer rings as 30 seconds are already over. The guy tells Yoo-jun that he does not do too badly and now he cannot wait to see what the next person can do in the challenge. Yoo-jun then tells Jong-suk that the opponent is better than expected, but Jong-suk tells him that he should leave it to him, as he observes everything carefully. Both of them stand in front of each other, and their 30-second timer starts now for the challenge. The guy then charges towards Jong-suk, wondering if he should just trick him this time, but Jong-suk thinks that if it is left or right leg, or he should crack it down the middle. Seeing Jong-suk's cold expressions, the guy gets nervous because he is the one holding the ball, so why does he feel like he is being hunted down right now? After that, the guy starts doing fast passing tricks using his leg that shocks even Yoo-jun, who wonders what kind of dribbling this is, and this seems like something that is not at a street amateur level at all. However, the guy wonders if Jong-suk is going to keep watching because he is going to make him unable to resist attacking. Then he applies some backspin to the ball to move it around, and then he uses that same force to lift the ball onto the instep of his foot. He changes the direction and sends the ball backward toward a different spot. However, to him it looks like that is the target he is aiming for, but this is actually a feint and a fake move, as what he is really looking for and trying to do is kick the ball in the opposite direction to change his course and path of movement. To his surprise, Jong-suk manages to block the ball successfully and he gets the ball in his possession and control. Seeing that happen, Yoo-jun gets really excited and pumped up and gives a high five to Jong-suk, saying that he believed in him the whole time. The guy then tells Jong-suk that he has good eyes and sharp observation skills and gives them their 1,000 yen as he promised earlier. Yoo-jun and Jong-suk get happy and relieved because they can finally pay off the ramen money they owe, as each bowl costs 500 yen each. Yoo-jun and Jong-suk leaves, but another person asks the guy what he is doing here as tomorrow's the opening match. The person turns out to be Nagai, who tells him that the coach is looking for him and searching everywhere, and he has been standing here and watching since he started betting with the Korean players earlier. It turns out that the guy who was playing and competing with Yoo-jun and Jong-suk was wearing heavy sandbags strapped on his leg the entire time during the game. Then, the guy whose name is revealed as Sato-ran, who is a Japan Under-17 Cup candidate midfielder, packs his stuff and belongings, and they both walk away together from the area. The next day, it is the Sendai Cup opening match day and the match is between South Korea and Brazil. In the past timeline, South Korea lost to Brazil with a score of 3-1, but this time South Korea has Yoo-jun on their team, so he will change the past results with his Golden Zone ability. The match then begins, but the worst part is that Yoo-jun can't change the past because he is sitting on the bench because he was excluded from Brazil match starting lineup. 1 hour before the Brazil match starts, a guy tries to give Yoo-jun some chocolate to ask for a favor, but Yoo-jun says that he is just asking for passes again because the player wants to score a goal just once too in his career. Just then, Yoon-won arrives at the locker room and announces that everyone should gather for the lineup announcement right now. He then shows everyone today's lineup on the board, but Hyungmin asks Yoonwon why Yoojun is not in the lineup at all. The coach then reveals that Yoojun is actually excluded from this match's starting lineup completely. Hearing that news, Yoojun wonders why he gets excluded, and it was because he does not train enough, but he thinks that he has good results in all training sessions so far. Just then, Yoojun notices a golden light glowing around Yoonwon in his vision. Back in the present moment, Yoojun thinks that the golden light means opportunity and a chance, which means that Yoonwon is going to put him in the match today, but he does not know when exactly that will happen because there are only 10 minutes of the second half that have already passed by. After that moment, a goal finally breaks through in the second half of the game, and the scorer of the opening goal is Brazil's number 9 player named Dudu Barbosa. After Brazil's opening goal, South Korea gets the ball back and they manage to hold up well against Brazil, who are the Under-17 Cup Championship favorites and top team. Soon after, South Korea's Go Min-chong advances forward with the ball and he passes the ball to Jong-suk, but the Brazilian player named Vitorino, who is a midfielder on the team, steals the pass away from him. After that moment, he passes to another player who then passes to another teammate, and it keeps going on like this until the ball reaches to Barbosa, who thinks to himself that the South Korean players are slow and not fast enough. Seeing that, Yoojun thinks to himself that the gap between passes is incredibly short and quick, and the Korean team's tempo was fast too and impressive, but Brazil's tempo is even faster and quicker than theirs. Furthermore, Yoojun wonders what the difference between the two teams is, and the thing he observed and noticed is the observation skill itself. He believes that Jong-suk figured out the opponents through careful observation and used the analyzed data and information to attack the opponents effectively, and now that he is sitting on the bench watching, he can do that too from here. However, Yoojun could not do it properly and accurately like Jong-suk does it, so he decides to do what he can do well instead, like just sending good passes to the golden zone would be doing his part and job. Yoojun then thinks about the golden zones that show where the goals will go in advance before they happen, and through the zone ability, he can move one tempo faster than others around him. Yoojun then wonders if the Brazilian guys could see it too like he does. Moreover, Yoojun thinks that knowing where the next pass will go must be the result of experience and effort over time. The Brazilian players seem to be continuously moving to good positions to receive the next pass, unlike the South Korean team players, and that is how they can keep the match tempo fast and moving. Yoojun believes that if he had faced this tempo on the field while he was playing as well, then he would not have been able to do anything about it at all or make any difference. He thinks that it is actually fortunate and lucky that he started as a substitute player on the bench watching the game, and he questions and wonders if Yoonwon put him on the bench considering even this situation and factor in his decision-making. Afterward, Dudu Barbosa scores another goal for the team, and they all start celebrating excitedly because the Brazilian team has been passing well since the start of the match. Seeing that happen, Yoojun figures out that it is always number 8 and number 9 working together, as number 8 curves around behind number 9, and number 9 connects to number 8 without even looking back at him. After that moment, Barbosa scores another goal just like their strategy and plan worked, because Barbosa and the other player are the core of Brazil's attack and offense. While Yoojun is lost in his thoughts and thinking deeply, Yoonwon tries to wake him up and get his attention, saying that he should get ready and prepare himself because he is going to send him to the field as a substitution player now. Meanwhile, the commentators are already frustrated, and one thinks that there is no fun or excitement to commentate about anymore, but the other guy tells the first one that maybe South Korea can really make a comeback in the game. Just then, the commentator announces that there will be a player substitution for South Korea, and the player who is going to come on the field is playing in his first international tournament ever. Yoojun is being substituted with Min-chong on the field, and then everyone starts cheering loudly for Yoojun as he enters. He then tells Hyungmin that he is going to run incredibly fast from now on during the game, so they should keep up with him and his pace. Sometime earlier, Hyungmin feels down as he thinks that he has not done a thing in the match so far, and he realizes that this is Brazil's level of play, but the skill gap is really this big between them. He then tells the team to get their heads in the game and focus, as it is only 2 goals behind, and they can still make a comeback and win, but he notices that everyone's mentality in South Korea looks weak and defeated right now. Back in the present, the match continues on with Jong-suk getting the ball in his control on the field, but then a Brazilian player appears right in front of him blocking his path forward. Jong-suk then quickly rushes past the guy with speed, which surprises him a whole lot, because the South Korea players looked completely dead and lifeless just a second ago, and now it seems like they got their motivation back somehow and are energized again. After that, Jong-suk passes the ball over to Yoojun, who is already struggling and competing with a Brazilian player for a good position on the field. Seeing that happen, the commentator adds that this is Yoojun's first appearance in an international tournament like this one, so they do not have much information on him either at this point. They are looking forward to seeing what he can show them in this tournament ahead and what kind of skills he has in his play. Meanwhile, Dudu Barbosa wonders that with Yoojun coming in the game as a substitute player, the team's atmosphere has changed completely around him and the energy is different now, so he thinks that Yoojun is not just an ordinary substitution player on the field right now playing with them. The South Korea team makes a passing error deep in Brazil's half of the field and the ball goes to a Brazilian player who takes control of it and possesses it. However, Yoo-jun gets surprised to see a passing mistake here, but then he realizes that it's a counterattack. The Brazilian player then gives a long pass to Dudu Barbosa, who sees two defenders of South Korea in front of him blocking his way, but then he hears Yoo-jun's noises, so he looks around to find Yoo-jun catching up to him quickly. Yoo-jun realizes that his defenders are 3 players including him on defense, and the ones charging up behind are number 8 Eziel and number 15 Vandrick from the Team Brazil coming forward. Yoo-jun then tells Min-sung that they should try their best to stop them here and now, but Dudu Barbosa replies in Brazilian language that both of them cannot stop him at all. Min-sung then rushes in to steal the ball away, but Barbosa throws the ball high in the air above them, so Yoo-jun thinks that there is a chance for him to steal it in the air, and so does Min-sung. However, Barbosa pushes the ball away from the others and quickly gets control of it, so Yoo-jun and Min-sung start chasing after him right away. Barbosa thinks that this is enough to waste plenty of time, and while he is busy drawing their attention toward himself, his team has time to set up their formation on the field. After that, Barbosa passes the ball to his teammate, but Yoo-jun closes in fast to mark the key player on their team. But the other team quickly passes the ball from Vandrick to Eziel in a smooth move. Seeing that happen, Yoo-jun thinks that they are playing in a triangle formation again like they did before. The Brazilian player thinks that the moment the triangle is complete and ready, it is over for the other team because their trio is quick and works well together on the field, and the tiki-taka short passes are nearly impossible to stop without figuring out where they will go next beforehand. He also thinks that if the South Korean players just try to intercept the short pass without thinking it through carefully, then they will right away send the ball in another direction to take advantage of the mistake they made. He further believes that from the opponent's perspective, it is like the ball just disappears into thin air, and this special technique is called the Bermuda Triangle formation because of how the ball seems to vanish. Afterward, Eziel passes the ball over to Dudu Barbosa on the field, but Yoo-jun quickly intercepts and steals the ball away from him. Yoo-jun tells Barbosa that he has completely figured out his playstyle and way of playing, and that triangle formation felt really familiar because it was exactly the same as what he saw from the bench earlier, so he figured it out for a while now. In the end, the last pass always goes to his key striker, Dudu Barbosa, and because of the power of observation and watching carefully, he understood everything about their strategy. Yoo-jun then passes the ball forward to his teammate, and everyone on the field wonders who the pass is going to right now, and the pass goes to Hyungmin, who quickly runs forward with the ball at his feet. Yoo-jun screams at his teammates to run and pushes Hyungmin to move faster. The commentator speaks about how Hyungmin has a real chance for Korea to score. Both commentators yell about the counterattack situation and how the Brazilian field has no defensive players, creating a good chance for Korea to score against their opponents. Hyungmin rushes toward the goal with great speed, running as fast as he can toward the empty area where Brazilian defense should be protecting. The situation turns into a one-on-one battle between striker and goalkeeper. When Hyungmin arrives at a good spot, he positions his body correctly and shoots the ball hard toward the goal. The goalkeeper manages to block successfully. However, another Korean player receives the ball and takes control. He gets the ball while feeling confused about what to do next, thinking about where he should kick it. This person is Sukjun, a winger for the team. A loud voice calls out Sukjun, making Sukjun feel more confused. Yoo-jun runs quickly toward the front where the action happens, telling his teammate to pass the ball. Player Yoo-jun runs at maximum speed to reach position. Sukjun passes across the field to where Yoo-jun stands waiting. Yoo-jun receives the ball successfully and smiles. The commentator shouts about how the first goal is about to happen, asking who will score this important goal. Yoo-jun looks near the goal and sees a bright yellow pillar of light coming from the goal location. He smiles and says it's a nice pass. Hyungmin receives the ball and immediately passes it back for a better scoring chance. Yoo-jun takes a powerful shot from Sukjun's position. The kick travels diagonally and flies into the side of the goal. The Brazilian goalkeeper falls sideways attempting to block the ball. His hand almost touches the ball as it flies past toward the goal, only centimeters away from making contact. The ball slides past his desperately reaching hand and keeps flying toward the goal. The ball flies straight into the goal without obstruction. Brazilian fans look down with disappointment on their faces. All persons' faces shows worry about what this goal means for their team's chances. The two commentators feel surprised and look down at the field. The other teammates feel so surprised they open their mouths wide in shock. They all run toward Yoo-jun to celebrate together. Everyone rubs his head in celebration. They celebrate with great happiness, their smiles so big they cannot close their mouths. Brazil is known as the strongest youth team in the tournament, but player Son Hyungmin doesn't care because he just scored a spectacular goal against them. Hyungmin turns to speak to the person standing next to him, talking about how the position player Hyungmin takes is unexpected and surprising. When Hyungmin hears this, he becomes stunned and doesn't reply. Instead, he thinks about how Hyungmin maintains his position well throughout the play. However, it's actually Yoo-jun who provides assist that makes the goal possible. The person thinks about this observation and gives a knowing smile. The commentator thinks about both Yoojun and Hyungmin as players with great potential. He looks down at the Korean team celebrating on the field. In his heart, he lets out a sigh, thinking about what a promising duo these two players are. The Korean team keeps celebrating with great enthusiasm. Meanwhile, on the Brazilian side, the coach stares toward where Korea celebrates. The Brazilian coach starts thinking deeply about the situation his team faces, thinking they cannot allow Korea to ruin Brazil's win. This person is head coach of the Brazilian national team. He looks at his watch to check how much time remains, thinking about whether it's a good idea to put a player named Goncalves onto the field. The match returns to its normal pace and flow, with Hyungmin covered in sweat from all the running and physical effort. He shouts out instructions to his teammates, urging them to move forward and stay alert. The Brazilian team gains possession and handles the ball skillfully, keeping control as they pass it around. One Korean player runs up to put pressure on the opponent, and another quickly follows, rushing toward the Brazilian player with the ball. But before they can stop him, he passes it to the teammate wearing number 6, and the game once again falls into the same pattern as it did at the start of the possession. When Yoojun sees what's happening, he curses under his breath in frustration. He grits his teeth as he watches the scene unfold, noticing how the Brazilian players keep passing the ball back and forth without even trying to push forward. When he glances at the scoreboard, it shows 2-1. Yoojun starts wondering if Brazil is just trying to waste time until the match ends. He thinks hard about how to stop them from keeping up this tactic and decides that he's not going to let them get away with this time-wasting strategy. Yoojun thinks about his plan and rushes toward the player wearing number 15. He decides he will follow this player to the end. The player wearing number 15 quickly kicks the ball in another direction. Yoojun reacts quickly and looks toward number 15 with focus. Sun Eugene speeds up and rushes forward to chase after the ball, rushing to the person who holds it. The other person doesn't let Yoojun get close and immediately passes to another teammate. Dudu stands outside looking toward the field where the action happens. The two sides keep fighting for possession and battle back and forth. Dudu looks and frowns at what he sees. He thinks he doesn't want to win like this. Dudu remembers when Yoojun steals the ball from his feet earlier. The stands suddenly burst into noise, distracting Dudu and shaking up the entire Brazilian defense. Taking advantage of the moment, Yoojun dribbles the ball and sprints quickly toward the front. Sejuan now has the ball, and the Brazilian players begin to fall back. The commentator points out that Brazil is retreating. One of the Brazilian players notices Yoojun charging forward at full speed and immediately yells for his teammates to stop him. He then rushes after Yoojun, and soon 2 or 3 players close in on him. 2 of them stick to Yoojun tightly, one on his left and the other on his right, trying hard to keep him from breaking through. Yoojun looks at the yellow pillar of light in the distance. Yoojun shoots directly at that pillar. The ball passes so fast that the people on the other team want to stop but cannot. Sun Yoojun looks toward the other side. The Korean team has a person who receives this ball. A kick flies quickly into the goal, but it deflects. The ball flies in a curved line. Yoojun stares at the path of the ball. Sun Yoojun stands far away and sees the whole scene. Yoojun remembers the speed of the ball and the position of the players. Yoojun studies the situation carefully and starts calculating where the ball will go next. He runs quickly toward the spot where the yellow light appears. As he's running, he watches the ball falling from above and realizes it's coming down too high. If it keeps going like this, it'll go out of bounds. Yoojun quickly looks up at the scoreboard and sees that it's already the 84th minute, meaning there's no time left to waste. Afterward, Yoojun makes an overhead pass that sends the ball flying through the air. The ball comes toward the goal moving very fast. The Brazilian goalkeeper cannot react at all to stop it, so the coach from the Brazilian team sits in the stands watching the match. He starts to panic as he sees what happens. The Brazilian coach feels worried because before this moment, he thinks his team is going to win without any problems. The Korean fans in the stadium watch with concern as everyone wonders what will happen in this match and how it will end. Then the ball flies straight into the goal. This moment seems to freeze in time when the ball crosses the goal line as the commentator grabs his microphone and shouts loudly that a goal has been scored. Yoojun lies on the field below and lifts his head up as Yoojun equalizes the score against the Brazilian team. Se Eugene also lies on the ground nearby. He cannot believe what his ears hear. He remembers earlier times when he was injured and at his weakest point. Yoojun thinks about how he was a failed player in the past. Now he just scores a goal in his first match on the field. The ball goes into the goal of the Brazilian team, which is known as the strongest youth team. At that moment, Yoojun reacts by yelling out loud. His teammates are positioned far away on the field. They start running toward him to celebrate. Jongwon runs quickly to reach Yoojun's location. He asks Sun Eugene where he learns that trick from. Yoojun begins to support himself so he can sit up from the ground. He thinks they need one goal, just one more goal. Yoojun looks toward the front with strong determination and he thinks they will win against the strongest team, Brazil. The Korean team celebrates their goal with loud cheers and happy faces, while the Brazilian team feels the complete opposite. They start to panic because the score is now tied, and their lead is gone. The The Brazilian players look at each other in confusion and frustration, asking what's going on. Some of them wonder if the Korean team is really that strong, while others worry out loud about whether they might lose the match. When one player says that, another teammate replies that everything feels terrible and completely different from what they expected. The teammates look toward the person who will respond next. Barbosa starts to get angry. He looks directly at his teammates. Dudu Barbosa reminds them that they are the Brazilian team. He says soccer flows in their blood. He works to rally his teammates. He tells them not to be afraid because winning is only a matter of time. He insists that giving up is not their style. The teammates hear those words and start to think more positively. Dudu looks toward the other side of the field. He explains that as long as the ball stays on the field, they cannot stop. At this moment, Dudu just sneers and says he'll show everyone what real players look like. Taking the lead, he steps forward and guides the Brazilian team, ready to prove what a strong team truly is. The teammates behind him start cheering each other on with determination. The clock now shows 85 minutes, meaning there are only 5 minutes left before the match between Korea and Brazil ends. The game starts again, and the Brazilian players move fast, working hard to take control of the ball and regain possession as they sprint across the field. After that, the match turns into a fierce battle between Korea and Brazil. Neither team is willing to give up even a single inch to the other. Whenever one side takes control of the ball, the other side immediately rushes in to fight for it again. Dudu stays close to Yoojun, marking him tightly and shouting at his teammates to stop player number 15. One of the Brazilian players thinks to himself how much he dislikes facing these opponents. As he watches the game unfold, he realizes that the Korean team has no intention of giving up. Just then, another Brazilian player manages to steal the ball from Korea's number 10, putting it back under Brazil's control. The ball rolls to the feet of another Brazilian player who is still full of energy. He starts dribbling straight toward Korea's goal with determination. Yoojun shouts loudly to his teammates, telling them to stop him right away. Soon, the same pattern from earlier in the match begins to repeat. The Bermuda Triangle formation appears again, and the Brazilian team starts setting up their triangle play once more. Yoojun and Jongwon step forward together to block it, warning them not to even think about breaking through. Dudu now has the ball at his feet and points the tip of his shoe toward the player, clearly planning to pass to a nearby teammate. Just as expected, Dudu quickly sends the ball his way, and number 3 on the Korean team sprints toward the player to intercept. Seeing this, the player immediately passes the ball to another player. Number 3 again turns his attention to another guy. He does not keep possession of the ball for too long. He immediately passes it back to Dudu's feet. Dudu receives the ball again. He immediately begins dribbling toward the goal. The Brazilian team continues breaking through the defense while running forward. Suddenly, one of the Brazilian players shouts Dudu's name loudly to grab his attention. Dudu turns his head with a confused look on his face, and the player points toward a bright spot of light in front of him. Dudu looks in that direction and frowns as he studies the area carefully. A number flashes in his mind as he realizes that if he kicks the ball to that exact spot, the chance of scoring a goal will be very high. Their chances of winning could rise in an instant. But before he can make a move, Yoojun rushes in and blocks him, telling him not to even think about it. Dudu Barbosa is exhausted at this point, sweat dripping down his face. Player number 17 turns back to check the field and feels uneasy about the situation. He thinks it might be better to ignore Dudu and pass the ball to someone else instead. As Dudu considers what to do next, he starts to speak but suddenly remembers how Yoojun easily stole the ball from him earlier in the match. Because of that memory, he made up his mind to face Yoojun head-on this time. Dudu tells Yoojun that the thing he hates most is admitting defeat. Dudu now rushes toward Yoojun like a moth to a flame. He declares that he will pass through him. Although he just speaks those words strongly, Yoojun still feels nervous inside. He thinks to himself that if Barbosa gets past him, then everything will be over. He knows he has to stop him no matter what happens. Yoojun observes every single small action of Dudu. He tries to predict which side he will attempt to pass from, whether it will be left or right. Yoojun works to calm himself down and follow every small action. Even with all this focus, he still feels nervous. Dudu leans to one side while dribbling the ball quickly toward the front. While dribbling forward, he observes Song Yoojun's actions. Yoojun at this time realizes something about the right side. He thinks Barbosa wants to pass by there. Dudu moves to the left side of Yoojun while still calculating in his mind. He lowers his center of gravity. Dudu's foot starts to reach behind the ball. Yoojun reads this action correctly. He understands what is happening. Yoojun kicks powerfully toward the front. He breaks Dudu Barbosa's attack because he realizes that action is fake. Yoojun's teammates stop due to Barbosa's action. The team on the Brazil side becomes worried about losing their advantage. Dudu quickly reacts. He turns his head and says loudly to his teammates to get the ball back immediately. Right at that moment, Yoojun steps powerfully with his feet on the grass surface. Then he accelerates while dribbling the ball through Dudu. This causes him to be unable to react in time to stop this counterattack. Seeing the commentator starts describing what's happening, noting that player Yoojun glances down before sprinting straight toward the goal on the opposite side. Yoojun runs at full speed with the ball, not slowing down for even a second. As the commentator continues speaking, he notices the clock showing 89 minutes, meaning there's only 1 minute left in the match. The entire field now has its eyes locked on Yoojun and becomes the center of everyone's attention as the game heads into its final, decisive moments. After that moment, South Korea gets their final chance to attack and Yoojun starts running forward with the ball while the Brazilian players keep running after him trying to catch up. Yoojun then looks around and wonders to himself why the golden zone isn't showing up for him yet. Then another opposing player comes right in front of Yoojun trying to stop him from moving forward. But Yoojun just keeps running past that player while he trusts and follows the red arrow that he can see. When the Brazilian player sees this, he thinks that Yoojun's dribbling skills are really bad and not good at all, but somehow Yoojun can still avoid and dodge everything that tries to block his path. It seems like Yoojun already knows exactly where the tackles are going to come from before they even happen. At last, Yoojun is able to see the golden zone appearing on the opposite side of the field from where he is, so he quickly kicks and passes the ball toward that glowing spot. The ball then moves through and slips past all the defending players and reaches Jong-suk, who is already waiting in the middle of the enemy team's territory. Jong-suk shoots the ball and he manages to score the goal, and with that shot the South Korean team wins the match against the other team. Then, all the players and fans start celebrating South Korea's win, and especially Jong-suk gets a lot of attention because he is the main player who made the biggest difference in the whole match. On the other hand, Yoojun can't believe that their team was actually able to beat the Brazilian team, and he thinks to himself that he has a really good record for his first time playing, since he got 2 assists and 1 goal in this game. After thinking about that, Yoojun also joins his teammates in the celebration and he thinks that this win is just the beginning of something bigger because his soccer career is only starting its journey right now. On the other hand, Coach Yoon-won can't believe that all it took to lead South Korea was just 20 minutes. He then thinks that the main character of that story is Yoojun, who had his debut today, and he has to have a conversation with him later about all this. Later during that same night, Coach Yoon-won decides to treat all the players by ordering some really fancy and expensive dishes for them, and all the players immediately start eating the chicken like they are completely crazy because they probably haven't eaten anything since the morning time. However, the coach starts to notice that one person is not there with them, so he asks one of the other players about where Yoojun is right now, but that guy tells him that Yoojun said to him earlier that he feels really tired and he is going to sleep. On the other hand, Yoojun is lying down in his bed trying to sleep, but he can't seem to fall asleep no matter how hard he tries to close his eyes and get some rest. He continues thinking that even though it was only a friendly match happening between the two teams, it was still his very first official game that he ever played in. On top of that, there were a lot of different incidents that happened one after another right after the match finished. The very first incident takes place right after the Brazil match comes to an end when a reporter who works for KBC Sports walks up to Yoojun, and he asks Yoojun if he could possibly get a quick interview with him. Since this is Yoojun's very first time ever doing an interview with any reporter or journalist, he feels extremely nervous and anxious during the whole thing. He doesn't even remember what kind of words actually came out of his mouth when he was speaking to the reporter. After that interview finishes, the second incident turns out to be quite shocking and surprising for Yoojun when Brazil's ace player, Dudu Barbosa, asks him if he wants to exchange jerseys with him. When Yoojun hears those words, he gets shocked for a little while, which makes Barbosa start thinking that maybe Yoojun doesn't actually want to exchange his jersey with him. However, Yoojun quickly says that he really does want to exchange jerseys with him. For just a second, Yoojun can't believe the fact that a future Brazil superstar named Dudu Barbosa is actually wanting to exchange jerseys with someone like him. On top of everything, Yoojun also thinks that Barbosa seems to know a bit of English, so he should try to become good friends with him while he still has this chance. After all that, the last thing that happens is when the tactical coach walks up to Yoojun with someone beside him, and that person turns out to be Soo Cheol, the chairman of the national team's Strength Enhancement Committee. Both of them tell Yoojun that they plan to send him to Spain so he can study there, but they also tell him to make sure he calls it association support whenever he talks about it later. On the surface, it looks like a really good chance and offer for him, but the timing makes it clear that they are acting on impulse. Bringing it up right after the match ends shows they want to buy him for the lowest price possible, especially since he just made his debut and played really well. Yoojun thinks that if it's the Spanish Pro League, then maybe he would think about it, but studying abroad is something he really doesn't want to do. He feels tired both in his body and his mind, so he decides to go back to sleep. But just when he's about to lie down, his coach suddenly walks into his room. Yoojun feels surprised and asks why he's here, but the coach then asks him if he ever thinks about becoming a pro player. The coach asks Yoojun again if he wants to go pro or if he plans to go to university, but Yoojun thinks that it's not like he never considered college, it's just that he would end up wasting too much time as a player. Since he decided to become a soccer star in this life, he tells Yoon-won that he wants to go straight into the pro league. Hearing that, Yoonwon asks if he has received any offers yet, and says that if he hasn't, he will help him out. Yoojun feels surprised to hear that Yoonwon is willing to support his dream of going pro, but knowing his background and experience, he surely has the ability to do it. Furthermore, Yoojun thinks that this must be before Korean soccer players started going overseas, and it's probably just a K-League Division 1 recommendation, but he wants to play at a much higher level than that. He then asks Yoonwon if he's talking about playing within the country, but Yoonwon replies that he actually means overseas, which surprises Yoojun. After that, Yoonwon asks him if he knows about the Super League. He then explains that the Super League, which is the Turkish league, is the club where he used to play back in his active days. After hearing that, Yoojun realizes that this is the same league where Korea's best defender, Choi Yong-ho, once played, and it's known as a path that has led to proven success stories. Still, there's something about it that Yoojun doesn't really like. The coach quickly notices that Yoojun doesn't seem so happy about the idea, since he expected him to aim for something even higher. So, the coach mentions that there's also the J-League, where he himself used to play. Yoojun replies that he will think about it carefully, but Yoonwon points out that someone who already turned down the Super League probably wouldn't be satisfied with the J-League either. Coach Yoonwon tells Yoojun that from now on, he will start receiving many different offers like this, and he asks if Yoojun will be able to make the right choice each time. He knows that Yoojun is still young, doesn't have much experience, and doesn't fully understand how the world really works. So, Yoonwon says he has a good plan for him. Since he can't personally connect Yoojun to the leagues, he says he can at least find someone who will help him make the right choices. Then he tells Yoojun that if he's fine with it, he will introduce him to a sports agent. Hearing this, Yoojun starts thinking about how that person will handle all his business matters, from big contract talks with clubs to even personal things in his life. Without wasting time, Yoojun quickly says that he would gladly accept the help of an agent, so Yoonwon hands him a business card with the name Jiho on it. The coach says he will introduce them properly once they get back to Korea after the Sendai Cup. Just as Yoonwon is about to leave the room, someone suddenly opens the door hard and bumps into him, yelling that he'll trade his corn snack for something Yoojun has. But when he sees Yoonwon standing there, he freezes, and the coach lightly smacks him out of frustration. Later, Yoojun tells the guy that he'll give him some nice through passes in tomorrow's game so he can score and impress the coach. Hearing that, the guy gets super excited, but before that, Yoojun quickly grabs his snacks and runs off. The two of them end up playfully fighting over it the whole night. The next day, it's the match between France and South Korea, and people say that France is a team that rarely makes mistakes and never misses chances. However, South Korea has also come out with a slightly different formation compared to their game against Brazil. With fast and breakthrough-capable players placed on both wings, they can try to attack France's strong center by going through the flanks. After that, players from both teams walk onto the field, and Yoojun and Hyungmin notice that there are way more spectators than in their previous match. Hyungmin points out the crowd and tells Yoojun to look over there, where there are even reporters, and says that the broadcast crew has an even better spot than before. Yoojun thinks that after the Brazil match, it makes sense for there to be this much attention, but he actually sees it as a good thing because now he can clearly show everyone what kind of player he really is. The match starts with France taking the kickoff and they begin passing the ball around between their teammates. Watching this, Yoojun feels a bit surprised because he notices that the French players seem much slower compared to Brazil's. Then, as one of their passes goes off, Yoojun quickly intercepts the ball and rushes straight into the opponent's area. However, right then, a large golden zone and two smaller zones suddenly appear on the field, and Yoojun sees that both Hyungmin and Jongwon are standing near them. Thinking that the large zone probably belongs to Hyungmin, Yoojun decides to pass the ball toward one of the smaller zones instead. The ball reaches Jongwon, who easily scores a goal, but when Yoojun looks closely, he realizes that the one who actually scored wasn't Jongwon but Hyungmin. At that moment, Yoojun remembers why Jongwon, despite his amazing talent, still plays in the K-League, as it's because he has a bad habit of throwing games whenever he gets sulky or upset. The French players manage to get the ball, but the South Korean team quickly takes it back again, and it starts to look like France can't hold on to the ball for very long. Yoojun then goes in to steal the ball from one of the French players, but as he does, he starts to feel that something about this situation seems strange no matter how he looks at it. He eventually gets the ball and thinks that even though France is known as a strong team, their movements look stiff and awkward. Suddenly, he hears the sound of camera shutters clicking and realizes what's going on. The French players are only 17 years old, and they're nervous and scared because they know they're photographed. Yoojun thinks that the unfamiliar media pressure, and on top of that, they even gave up the first goal to a soccer underdog like South Korea, so they are not mentally tough enough to handle something like this at their age. After that, the ball gets back to Yoojun and he could see a golden zone, thinking he can try something for another go now. However, there are two golden zones, that means he has to make a stupid decision like before. Just then, Yoojun could see Jongwon running beside him and he wonders why Jongwon is like that again, but then Yoojun thinks that this time the circle is going to be the small one. He quickly kicks the ball towards it, hoping Jongwon gets it, but to his surprise, another player named Seon Jong-woo shoots it and the goalkeeper of the France stops the goal. Song Jong-woo then tells Yoo-jun that he will definitely get the ball next time, but Yoo-jun wonders that if it wasn't him this time either, then Jongwon must be behind him, cursing him why he didn't pass the ball to him again. Jongwon keeps complaining, saying the same thing over and over, that Yoo-jun didn't pass the ball to him again. 43 minutes later, a French player named Nabil Chadi gets hold of the ball and thinks to himself inside his head that it has been way too easy to control the ball for quite some time now without much resistance. He notices that Jongwon, who has been marking him and following him for a while now, seems much weaker than before. So he wonders if Jongwon is just tired from playing or simply not very smart at understanding the game. Chadi then passes the ball to his teammate Kevin, who quickly runs around and moves with it and sends it right back to Chadi, who has already moved into position on the other side of the field. However, Chadi manages to get a goal by a header shot and France has now tied the game. This makes Yoo-jun realize that their movements are totally different from the beginning of the match, so he wonders if they already got used to the pressure and intensity. On top of that, Yoo-jun thinks that at this rate and the way things are going, it is going to be even harder for them to score another goal, but then the first half comes to an end and finishes. At the break, Yoo-jun is actually going insane, thinking to himself that since Jongwon is sulking and barely playing or trying his best, their flank is wide open and vulnerable to attacks. He thinks about asking the coach to replace him with someone else, but then he remembers that it will not work as no one finds out about Jongwon's sulking habit for another 3 years from now. Yoo-jun believes that until then, everyone just keeps thinking that he's an inconsistent player, but if he asks for a substitute now, they will think he is a weirdo. Yoo-jun then decides that he has no other choice but to get Jongwon to score a goal in the second half and boost his confidence, because if he lets him be as it is and stay sulking, Chadi will keep overlapping on his side and exploiting that weakness. The second half then begins with Yoo-jun having the ball in his possession, and he thinks to himself that if he just plays like he did in the first half, he can definitely score another goal for the team. Out of nowhere, a French player comes running at Yoo-jun with speed and aggression, but he quickly jumps at the right time to stop the steal and keep the ball. He realizes that the French player's style has gotten way more aggressive in the second half compared to before, and the goal before might have boosted their morale and given them confidence to play harder. Chadi decides to pass the ball over to his teammate Kevin, and immediately after doing that, he charges forward at a really fast speed on the overlap so that he can receive the pass back without running into any problems or trouble. Chadi successfully manages to push himself deep inside the opponent's territory and area, so Kevin quickly passes the ball right back to him without wasting any time. Chadi begins sprinting really fast along the line to try to get closer to the exact spot where the goalkeeper is standing and waiting. He takes a shot and sends the ball straight toward the goal with a lot of force, but the goalkeeper still manages to block it pretty easily without facing much trouble or difficulty at all. After seeing that, the commentator mentions and says that France's overall performance is clearly very different compared to how they played during the first half of the match, because they keep hammering away at Korea's goal over and over again without stopping. This time around, it is Korea's mental state that is really lacking and struggling, and it looks like every single player on their team is completely burnt out and exhausted right now. On the other hand, Yoo-jun notices this problem happening as well and thinks that he somehow has to find a way to get a goal to Jongwon, but he does not know how he can make that happen. Right at that moment, Jong-suk comes over and asks Yoo-jun if he is actually trying to give Jongwon a goal right now. Jong-suk mentions that he already knew Yoo-jun would notice that Jongwon is sulking and upset, but Yoo-jun asks him how he even knew about this situation in the first place. Jong-suk responds by saying that at this point, just by looking at his running speed, his stride length, and his overall form on the field, it is pretty obvious to see. On top of all that, he also adds that in order to stop Chadi's overlapping runs from keeping on going, they really have no other choice but to somehow get Jongwon a goal and snap him right out of his current mental state. After hearing that, Yoo-jun realizes that Jong-suk figured all of that out just by observing carefully. It is already hard enough trying to read the other team's movements, but he is even analyzing their very own teammate while he is playing the game at the same time, which is really amazing. Right after that moment, Yoo-jun understands that it is actually possible now to give Jongwon a goal if they work together. The battle between Korea and France keeps on continuing, with Yoo-jun running after the ball really fast, thinking that the golden zone shows the exact spot where a goal can be scored, but it does not tell anyone who will actually be the one to score it in the end. Just then, the player from France team with the ball appears in front of Yoo-jun, but he notices that the player's balance dropped low and he is planning a breakthrough. At this point, what Yoo-jun has to do is need to read is which way he'll break, and then he starts watching him carefully without missing any important things. After a while, Yoo-jun finally sees that his next move is the right site that he needs to take, so then he quickly steals the ball away from the player and starts running forward with it. Yoo-jun thinks to himself that reading the opponent's flow and habits to predict what their next move will be is actually easier to do, so he wonders what would actually happen if he tried to apply that same method to his very own teammates instead. He then looks over toward Jeonggu, who is really great at off-the-ball movement, and Seokjun, who is a left-footer with really explosive sprinting speed and power. He thinks that he can simulate and figure out who will get into the right position to receive his pass most easily out of everyone, and then he figures out and realizes that the odds favor Jianggu's side more. After seeing all of that happen, Yujun sees that Jianggu is moving exactly as he predicted he would move and thinks this is definitely going to work out perfectly for them. It turns out that the pass was way too long to connect properly with him, and it ends up turning into a French throw-in attack for the other team instead. However, Yujun figures out and understands that he cannot read it perfectly yet at this point, but he realizes that it is really about reading the flow of the game. The French player then passes the ball over to Chadi, who is being chased after by Jong-suk, and he asks Chadi how far up the field is he actually planning to come forward. Chadi quickly passes the ball over to Kevin, but the Korean player wonders to himself that Chadi is marked really tightly right now, and this time it is truly one-on-one between them. He then charges forward toward Kevin because he wants to go head-to-head against him directly, but Kevin then throws a fake ball move that gets the ball to another French player instead, who makes fun of the Korean player for falling for that fake move so easily. Out of nowhere, Min Seong steals the ball away from him, asking him what kind of striker zones are out like that at the front of the field. Min Seong then shoots a really long shot which makes the ball go flying over to the left side where Seekjun is standing, and he thinks to himself that if they do not catch this ball right now, it will just become another French throw-in for the other team. He then jumps up really high into the air and clears the ball away, which makes the ball drop down in the center of the field, and Yujun gets control of it at the end. On top of that, Yujun thinks to himself that this is a really good chance for them right now, and then the 3 golden zones appear all at once again in front of him. Yujun tries his best to read the position of everyone and thinks to himself that one of those zones is Jongwon's zone, who is running like a complete maniac towards the golden zone as fast as he possibly can. Afterward, Yujun wonders to himself where exactly he should pass the ball to, either from the right side or the left side, but then they show a flashback scene from the U-17 training camp that happened before. In that scene, Hyungmin gets control of the ball and he quickly runs forward towards the goalkeeper with a lot of speed, but then he decides to pass the ball over to Jongwon instead. Jongwon does not catch the ball properly at all, which makes Hyungmin really furious and angry, so he asks him how his trapping made the ball bounce the other way like that, but Jongwon tells him to give him a better pass next time. After seeing that whole situation, Yujun thinks to himself that he should really stop lofting passes to Jongwon from now on. Back in the present, Yujun realizes that in Jongwon's area of the field, the ball really needs to be trapped properly without any mistakes, so he makes the final decision to kick the ball towards him at this exact moment. The ball then quickly gets down to Jongwon's feet and he immediately kicks it, but at first it looks like the shot is going just wide and outside of the goal completely, but then something amazing happens when the ball spins around and it curves its way inside the net perfectly. Since Jongwon finally scores the very first goal of the entire Sendai Cup tournament for their team, he finally regains his consciousness completely and stops being sulky. Jongwon then approaches Yujun directly and thanks him a lot for helping him out with scoring the goal, but Yujun also knows deep down that if it were not for him and his sulking, he would not have had to work this hard in the first place. After that, the second half of the match continues with Korea now leading with a score of 2-1 against France. The ball is now with Chadi once again on the field, and he thinks to himself that he should not be worried at all with the score being 2-1, and if they overlap again like before, they can definitely score another goal. Out of nowhere, Jongwon pushes him aside by hitting his chest and then he completely falls over to the ground hard. Wondering to himself what has gotten into him now all of a sudden. He further thinks that Jongwon's marking is absolutely insane now and way too strong because he cannot break through it at all no matter what he tries. On the other hand, Yujun wonders that they really won this match just like they did against Brazil before this one, and now they are definitely going to win against France as well in the end. With just one more match left to play in the tournament, the Sendai Cup trophy will be theirs to take home with them finally. Sometime later, the match finally ends and Yujun and the others head out of the stadium together as a team. Yujun is already super exhausted both mentally and physically from playing so hard, so he really needs to rest his body right now, but then he suddenly sees some people taking pictures of him with their cameras. The people introduce themselves as reporters who just want to take an interview with him about the game they just played. After seeing that, Yujun gets really nervous at first and wonders why they are even here for him as it was just his one match in the tournament. He then starts thinking about which reporter he should take an interview with out of all of them, and then he notices a KBC Sports reporter standing there whose name is Kwon Young-seop. Yujun quickly recognizes that specific reporter from the Brazil match that happened before and tells him directly to take his interview right now. The reporter asks him a question that his next match is against Japan, so does he think that he is going to win against them in that game? After hearing that, Yujun gets really surprised by it because he knows that even in the past without him being there, Korea still managed to beat Japan anyway, but now they have already beaten both Brazil and France in this tournament. Yujun then smiles at the reporter confidently and replies that he is very confident that they will win against Japan for sure, and this is a match that they simply cannot lose no matter what happens. Later that night, while everyone else is asleep in their rooms, Yoo-jun researches some stuff about Japan on his laptop computer by himself. He wonders to himself that he has one more reason why he is so confident about the Japan match coming up soon. It is because of the Japanese players and their formation from the past, because back when he could not let go of the past at all, he studied this information just in case he needed it, and it turns out it is actually useful now. However, there is one odd thing that stands out to him, and that is the lineup the coach gave him, which has just one player that is different from what he knew before. The person's name is Sato-run, so he wonders who this person could possibly be. The next day, at the Japan team training camp location, the Japanese players are trying their very best to train hard at everything they possibly can do. One of them on the team, named Ado Shinji, yells at his teammate to pass him the ball right now, and then he keeps playing and practicing with a lot of energy. On the other hand, their training coach, whose name is Takagi Hidito, is watching over all of them carefully when the head coach enters the room and says that it looks like Shinji is really fired up today more than usual. The training coach tells him in response that Shinji does have the title of being Japan's most promising youth soccer prospect in the country, and apart from that important fact, tomorrow is the big event match, so it is pretty obvious that he has to be fired up and ready. Furthermore, he adds that this is the final match of the Sendai Cup tournament and they are facing Team Korea, who already defeated both Brazil and France before this, and on top of all that, it is a Korea versus Japan match between the two countries. He says that it is a match that is drawing a lot of public attention from everyone, and it will be crawling with reporters and the press all over the place. However, the coach replies back to him that the player who performs really well in this match will rise to stardom overnight and become famous very quickly, so the training coach asks him if they shall go with Shinji at the center of the formation as usual as they always do. The coach thinks that it's a match that draws attention, so this must be the opportunity for them, but the training coach asks him if it's too early to reveal their secret plan. The coach replies that now is the best time to announce this strategy to the world as a formation that could become Japan's greatest tactic black hole. At the same time, Leon asks Shinji why they are pushing themselves so hard when the match is happening tomorrow already, so Shinji happily replies that a person can only improve and get better if they always work hard every single day. Deep down, he thinks to himself that this way he does not have to play with trash like him in the pros when he makes it. After that, they find the roster that is posted on the board in front of everyone, which makes Shinji think to himself that it is pretty obvious that the strategy will be centered around him because he is different from all of them on the team. But when he actually looks at the roster closely and carefully, he gets really shocked to see that his name is not on the roster at all anywhere, so he quickly barges into the coach's office. He quickly tells the coach that there might have been a mistake with the roster because his name was not on the list at all, but then he notices Sato-ren in the office as well. The training coach approaches Shinji and apologizes for not telling him about this before, but Ren will be playing instead of him for the match tomorrow. Just then, Ren extends his hand forward, saying that he seemed to be looking forward to this match quite a bit, but he has to apologize that he becomes the protagonist instead of him. Hearing that, Shinji gets really furious and he slaps Ren's hand away hard and heads out of the room immediately. Outside, Shinji thinks to himself that his entire plan to get famous through the media after winning the Korea-Japan match is completely flopping and failing because of Ren taking his spot. He then throws his chewing gum at Ren's locker out of anger, but then he suddenly hears some voices coming his way, so he quickly hides himself inside the locker to avoid being seen. Ren's long-haired friend asks him where he is going now at this time, so he replies back that he was planning to go do some freestyle practice by himself. The long-haired guy then tells him not to get hurt at all because if he does get injured, it is going to create a big problem for the entire team tomorrow. After hearing that, Shinji plots something really evil against Ren. Meanwhile, Yoo-jun and his crew are out exploring some restaurants and in the end, their bill gets 30,000 won. Min-seong asks them if they want to eat takoyaki for free, which surprises them, so he points out to a kicking machine outside. Then, they decide to play the kicking machine game together and the loser has to pay the whole 30,000 won for everyone playing. Jong-won goes first to take his turn and he easily scores 991 points on the machine, which makes Yoo-jun realize that this guy's brains and power are inversely proportional to each other. However, Hyungmin and the others also score their points somewhere around that same high range as well, which makes Yoo-jun think to himself that there is absolutely no chance that he is going to win this competition at all. Yoo-jun then throws the best kick of his entire life at the kicking machine with all his strength and the score gets up to 975 points, which makes him the loser of the game unfortunately, so he is going to lose all his allowance money today because of this. Later, Yoo-jun pays off the money for his food and heads out to find the others from his team, but then he notices a huge crowd of people gathered on the side of the street watching something. He then quickly goes around the crowd to find out what is going on over there, but then he sees Ren from the ramen shop that he visited before standing in the middle. Ren starts wrapping up his freestyle session because he has a really important match tomorrow that he needs to prepare for, but then a guy from the crowd asks if he can have one round with him to play. Yoo-jun thinks that this is the first time he has seen someone do freestyle properly and correctly since Jong-suk did it, so he plans on analyzing this performance properly and carefully. At that moment, Yoo-jun notices red flames burning in that guy's eyes intensely, and it turns out that this guy is sent by Shinji to injure Ren on purpose before the match. 1 hour earlier, Shinji met with this guy in secret and promised to give him some money if he agreed to do everything he said without question. Shinji tells him to break Ren's leg so bad that he can never play soccer again in his life, and the guy agrees to do it, telling Shinji to keep the cash ready for him when it is done. Back in the present time right now, the guy kicks with his full force and strength, but Ren just manages to dodge the ball away from him at the last moment. Ren wonders to himself what kind of tackle this is exactly, because it looks like he is not even going for the ball at all during the play. The guy once again tries to go after Ren with another attack, but he looks at the time quickly, and there are still 12 seconds left on the clock before it ends. Meanwhile, Yoo-jun realizes that ever since that challenger's eyes started glowing red like fire, he never actually intended to steal the ball at all, but his real goal is clearly to injure Ren badly on purpose. The guy then tries to attack him again with another aggressive move, but Ren dodges it successfully, so the guy knocks him backward with force, and when the guy notices that Ren's entire weight is all on one foot right now, he tries to attack him at that vulnerable moment. At that exact moment, Ren thinks to himself that his foot is stuck in position and he cannot dodge it at all, so he closes his eyes to take the blow that is coming. At the very last second before impact, Yoo-jun pushes the guy away with all his strength to save Ren from getting hurt, but then Yoo-jun's teammates also arrive at the scene as well. Seeing that, the guy gets really scared of getting caught and runs away from there as fast as possible. Ren then recognizes Yoo-jun, saying he remembers him from that ramen shop and thanks him for helping him out. However, Yoo-jun says that it is all his fault for butting in like that and getting involved and asking what he should call him. Then, Ren introduces himself properly and says that he is the world's #1 ranked freestyle soccer player right now, and he is also a member of Japan's U-17 Cup team that is competing. Yoo-jun wonders that the Sato Ren from Japan's team was actually a freestyle player, which he saw in the lineup that night when he was researching. He thinks to himself that hearing the word freestyle really jogged his memory from his previous life when he was living before. In a flashback, Hyungmin wakes up Yoo-jun from his sleep, telling him excitedly about a freestyle player from Japan who is the same age as them right now. When Yoo-jun checks the video on his phone, he gets completely stunned to see Sato Ren's freestyle moves and skills, and how his footwork is practically superhuman and unbelievable to watch, and he is the youngest person ever to reach world rank #1 in freestyle soccer. Back in the present time now, Yoo-jun thought to himself that he never thought Ren would actually be playing regular soccer as well, and then Yoo-jun asks Ren directly if he originally played soccer too along with freestyle. Ren replies back to him that tomorrow's Korea-Japan match in the Sendai Cup will be his very first debut match ever in competitive soccer. After hearing that, Yoo-jun thinks that it finally makes sense now to him, because in his past life, Ren was not in the Korea-Japan match at all, and the reason was definitely because of today's injury that would have happened to him. However, in this current life he is alive and healthy all because of Yoo-jun saving him, which makes him wonder to himself if he can really steal the ball from Ren during the match tomorrow. Yoo-jun then gets angry at himself for even thinking that way and tells himself that he is not scared of Ren at all because he has gotten much stronger through the Sendai Cup tournament, too. Yoo-jun then extends his hand forward and introduces himself properly to him, which makes Ren think to himself that even at the ramen shop before, Yoo-jun did not move like a normal person at all, so he might be a football player too. The next day after everything, the match between Japan and Korea finally arrives, and there are way more spectators today than usual watching the game. Afterward, both teams get on the field and everyone is excited to see who the hero of this heated showdown will be today. The match begins with Jong-suk getting the ball and he quickly passes it to Yoo-jun, who thinks that Japan's defensive line is sitting in pretty deep. He wonders if they are going for a defense-heavy strategy, as if that's the case then he decides to take the lead. Just then, a player of Team Japan named Shuhei appears in front of him who asks Yoo-jun how far he thinks he is going. Yoo-jun replies that they are going to win no matter what and he quickly passes through him. Yoo-jun thinks that he was too slow because he already expected that their individual skills are a step below Brazil and France, so if they keep playing like this, they can definitely win. Yoo-jun then passes the ball to Jongwon, who then passes it to Hyungmin. However, two players from Team Japan surrounds him from both sides. On the other hand, Yoo-jun realizes that there are way too many defenders on the ground for Japan's team right now. Eventually, after some playing, Hyungmin loses control of the ball, and the Japanese player whose name is Takumi passes the ball over to their ace player, Sato Ren, on the field. Japan's attacking formation is wide open for everyone to see, and the commentator thinks to himself that Japan's positioning is really great for defense, but it might be way too slow if they want to switch to attack mode quickly. Meanwhile, the technical coach asks the head coach if this strategy will actually work for them, but the coach replies back that it will not work for an average player at all. After that, Ren charges forward without waiting for his teammates to catch up with him, but a Korean player appears in front of him, asking if he heard the saying before that you should not even lose at rock paper scissors in a Japan-Korea match. He then tries to steal the ball away from Ren, who uses his instant freestyle leg moves and skills to dodge the steal attempt completely. Another Korean player also arrives to help him out with defending, but Ren just smiles at them and says that they are already way too late to stop him now, because he bought enough time for his team. Ren then passes the ball over to Hikaru, who shoots a really high ball into the air which seems like it cannot possibly go inside the goal at all, but then Nagai catches the ball with perfect timing and shoots it with his head straight into the goal successfully. After seeing that play, Yoo-jun realizes and understands that they pull their defensive line back to make it rock solid and strong, and then they pass the ball to Ren once they steal it from Korea. Moreover, Ren uses his individual skill to draw in the defenders toward him and buy time for his teammates, and in that gap of time, Japan completes their attacking switch by passing into the open space available. Meanwhile, the coach tells the other coach that Ren and Nagai are the perfect duo together, and this black hole strategy is only possible because of those two players working together. Japan is now leading with 1 point ahead while everyone else watching is impressed by Ren and Nagai's teamwork and coordination, and they wonder how the Korean team will counter this powerful combination between them. Yoo-jun decides to mark Ren one by one with pressure, which makes the Korean defenders move forward, so the Japanese players take control of the ball easily. However, Yoo-jun thinks to himself that if this strategy does not work for them, then they are going to move to another strategy right away, and then he tells everyone on the team to stick with Nagai instead of focusing on Ren. It turns out that no one is able to stop Nagai from the Korean team as of right now. Nagai then shoots another powerful header shot towards the goal with force, but this time around the goalkeeper manages to block it successfully with his hands. The goalkeeper then throws the ball back towards the Korean team to start a counterattack, but Ren manages to steal the ball away from them. Ren then runs like a complete maniac using his black hole strategy effectively as Yoo-jun and the other Korean players try their very best to stick with him and mark him closely. Ren quickly shifts his center of gravity to one side and then switches to the opposite side with perfect control. It turns out that Korea's defense is way too thin right now because they actually need 3 defenders on Ren to stop him properly. Afterward and right after that, another player from the Japanese team scores the goal successfully, which surprises everyone watching because they did not need to use Nagai this time around at all. After seeing that play, Yoo-jun realizes that they were using Nagai as a decoy to distract them, and no matter what strategy they try against Japan, it is not working at all for them. Yoo-jun wonders if there is nothing else left to try and he gets angry that they can't even stop one player's breakthrough. Yoo-jun blames himself for everything and thinks to himself that he just does not have enough talent for soccer at all, but then Hyungmin kicks Yoo-jun hard, telling him to snap out of his negative thoughts right now. Right after that, Yoo-jun and Hyungmin get into a heated argument with each other, and then everyone else arrives to stop their fight from getting worse. Yoo-jun then realizes something important, that the ball keeps going to Ren every single time, and he suddenly gets an idea in his mind. The Korean team then prepares for the kickoff to start playing again, while Yoo-jun thinks to himself that apart from Ren and Ryo, Japan's individual skills are not that great at all, and yet Korea's attacks keep getting cut off every time. He thinks to himself that it is because their forwards join the defense for a number-heavy strategy on the field, and then Sato and Ren buy time to switch to attack mode successfully. Just then, Hyungmin calls out Yoo-jun, telling him to block them 2-on-1. Seeing that, the Japanese player thinks that the breakthrough is blocked out, so then he decides to pass the ball to Ren. Earlier, Jong-suk asks Yoo-jun that since he has a strategy, so why not gather everyone and explain. Yoo-jun tells him that this is something that only he can do, or rather just the two of them. Yoo-jun explains to him in detail that he needs to block the defenders' paths completely, limit their passing routes as much as possible, and he should jump out from the blind spot to intercept the pass when it comes. Jong-suk thinks to himself that Ren's position on the field, the defenders' movements around him, and his own position, he would need to track all of that information throughout the entire game without stopping. Jong-suk thinks to himself that even with their great observation skills and awareness, they cannot pull this off successfully every single time without mistakes. Back in the present time right now, Jong-suk manages to steal the pass just like their plan was supposed to work. Yoo-jun thinks to himself that it is a strategy that is based completely on his and Jong-suk's observation skills and awareness together. Afterward and right after that, Jong-suk runs forward with the ball quickly, but 2 Japanese players appear in front of him to block his path completely. He quickly passes the ball over to Yoo-jun without hesitation, but 2 other players try to block Yoo-jun as well, but because he could see the arrows in their legs showing their movements, he could easily break through them without much trouble. Then after some time, the golden zone finally appears in front of him, so Yoo-jun passes the ball directly at it, where Hyungmin quickly scores a goal successfully. Yoo-jun then approaches Hyungmin right away and asks him if he is satisfied with getting enough passes from him now, but Hyungmin asks him back if he cannot play well without saying something annoying to him every time, because it really annoys him a lot. Right after that moment, both of them suddenly act more relaxed, and they start laughing together like they have been close friends forever. The game starts again with Japan on the attack, and Yoo-jun quickly moves in to block 3 players running with the ball. Then the ball goes to Ren, but Hyungmin rushes in and steals it, showing that Yoo-jun's plan is finally working just the way he wanted. The first half of the game ends. Yoo-jun thinks to himself that this is draining way more energy than he expected it would take. Jong-suk approaches him with a water bottle in his hand, saying he should save his energy carefully as he will slip up when it matters most otherwise in the second half. The second half begins with Team Japan attacking first, and Ren thinks to himself that his guess is correct, which is that Yoo-jun is controlling the passes coming his way on purpose. The ball then gets passed over to Ren, and Jong-suk and another player try to take Ren 2-on-1 to stop him. The other guy thinks to himself that he will face Ren head-on to slow him down as much as possible right now, and that is when Jong-suk slides in for the tackle at the perfect moment to stop him. Unfortunately, Ren manages to easily break through both of them without much difficulty at all, but Yoo-jun blocks the ball at the right time to stop the attack from continuing. Yoo-jun then runs forward with the ball toward a goal, and he sees a golden zone appear in front of him, so he quickly shoots the ball there, and then Hyungmin manages to hit a sliding shot that makes the ball get in the goal successfully. After seeing that, Nagai thinks that the game turned out way differently than he expected it would go, but then Ren decides to go all in with everything even if it leads him to get injuries on his body. Afterward, the match continues and there is only 10 minutes left in the final match of the Sendai Cup. Just like the first half, Yoo-jun stands in the way of the two players and Yoo-jun notices that Jong-suk is perfect as he's right where he needs to be. Seeing that, the Japanese player with the ball gets annoyed and thinks that if he passed to Ren now, Jong-suk will steal the ball again. He then notices that Yoo-jun is looking worn out so he might be able to pass him. He quickly charges towards Yoo-jun who is already losing his focus and don't know here should he block. Just then, Jong-suk tells Yoo-jun to get to the left side of the field while he will stick to the right side and cut him off from there. Out of nowhere, Ren runs past Jong-suk with incredible speed, and he easily gets the ball this time without any problems. He is overwhelmed by 3 Korean players surrounding him, but Jong-suk thinks to himself that he has gotten used to Ren's speed from the first half already, and 3 of them should be enough to stop him completely. To his surprise, Ren runs past through all of them quickly with his skills and he passes the ball over to Nagai, who tries to throw the ball forward, but Jong-won blocks it from going through. Everyone then tries to hit the ball to steal it away from them, but the ball slips past the players and it gets back to Ren once again. Yoo-jun then comes face to face with Ren directly and thinks to himself that if he breaks through here, it is over for them, so he has to stop him no matter what happens. Yoo-jun then starts losing his focus and wonders which way is he going to go, and if he can really stop him at all, because he has been dragged around by Ren this whole entire game. Yoo-jun then manages to understand the weight shift on Ren's leg and foot, and then he manages to steal the ball away from Ren successfully. There is only 1 minute left on the clock, and everyone is eagerly waiting to see if Korea can really pull off the comeback against Japan. In the blink of a second, Yoo-jun passes the ball over to Hyungmin, who quickly shoots a goal into the net, and with that final goal, Korea wins the match completely. Yoo-jun then starts tearing up with emotion that he is finally a Sendai Cup champion now, as it is a moment that he dreamed of in his past life before. After that day, Yoo-jun returns to his ordinary life like before, and instead of studying in class as he should, Yoo-jun and Hyungmin just pass notes to each other. During break, Yoo-jun practices soccer with his teammates on the field, and others notice that Hyungmin and Yoo-jun are on another level completely after playing for the national team in the tournament. Later that night after everything, Yoo-jun meets with the coach Yoon-won in a cafe location, and there Yoo-jun also notices his dad sitting with him at the same table. Yoo-jun's dad says to him that he is here because they are going to have a really important meeting with someone special today. Just then at that moment, a woman enters the cafe and she introduces herself as Agent Kim Ji-ho. She tells Yoo-jun that she watched his Sendai Cup performance really closely from beginning to end. Yoo-jun's dad then interferes with the conversation and asks if Yoo-jun is really a competitive player who can make it professionally, but Ji-ho shows them a PowerPoint presentation that she made on Yoo-jun's complete analysis and performance. Ji-ho tells them that she will brief them on where player Yoo-jun will be competitive in the evolving football market in the future. She explains to them that these days, the classic attacking midfielder position is losing its place in the game because tactics are more structured now and pressing is way more intense than before, but she thinks that Yoo-jun is different from others. She adds that he protects the ball really well and has the stamina and the movement to withstand pressure from opponents effectively. More than anything, she believes that Yoo-jun has the kind of talent that can completely change a match with his goals and assists when the team needs it the most. Hearing her words, Yoo-jun feels thrilled because he thinks her analysis is completely accurate, and it reminds him of a player from the future who matches that description perfectly. That player is Gavin De Bruyne, one of the most successful midfielders from the 2010s and 2020s. Yoo-jun's dad then asks her if she has any team to recommend for him, and she shows them her top pick. As soon as Yoo-jun sees the details of the club, he quickly tells his dad that he's going to sign with her. The team she is talking about is actually Manchester City, which is a mid to lower tier team right now at this moment, but in the future years, it will grow into a powerhouse club. He thinks to himself that even if he shines really well at the U-17 World Cup tournament, the chances of getting an offer from an S-tier top club are pretty slim and unlikely. So instead of that, He thinks that instead of aiming for something unrealistic like that, targeting a mid-tier club like Manchester City, which is guaranteed to rise in the future, is the way to go for him. Moreover, he thinks that this is the time period when Korean athletes are not actively moving overseas to play, and understanding of foreign clubs is really limited in Korea, and yet somehow, to think there is an agent who knows so much about the overseas market and opportunities is really impressive. 1 week later, Yoo-jun is actually training really hard on the field and he thinks that Agent Jiho is absolutely flawless when it comes to soccer matters, but other than that topic, she is completely clueless in some areas of life. Hyungmin arrives at the training ground and shows Yoo-jun another article about him in the news and says that they are really excited because of him and his performance. Afterward, Yoo-jun wonders to himself if the U-17 World Cup is always this big of a deal, as it is the biggest and greatest global event watched by billions of people worldwide from different countries. He thinks to himself that it is the tournament that naturally draws global attention from everyone who loves soccer. Later on, Coach Youngwon gathers everyone together because of the group draw announcement happening soon. It turns out that Team Korea is not in the group draw until Group C is revealed, because it includes Argentina, Senegal, and Germany as opponents. However, the final country of the group draw is none other than South Korea joining that group. A few days later, the Korean team heads out to practice in really hot weather, so Youngwon explains to everyone that they have to get their bodies used to this kind of heat so they can play their best when the actual match comes around. This is their second day being in Nigeria, which is the country hosting the U-17 Cup tournament, and they got here right after the group seeds got sorted out and decided. On top of that, getting used to the local weather and environment is the most important thing they need to focus on, but everyone still pushes themselves really hard during practice because the first team they're facing is Germany. Later on, Yoo-jun starts looking through some papers that Jiho handed to him before. Earlier in the day, she gave him information and data about all the players from the teams in Group C, and she even wrote down summaries about what makes each player special, how their recent games went, and what kind of coaching style each team uses. Yoo-jun starts thinking that if the data Jiho put together is actually correct and accurate, then they're dealing with a problem because it looks like all the future superstar players are grouped together on the same German team. Later that night, the team returns to Korea, and everyone gathers to eat dinner except for Yoo-jun and Hyungmin, who stay behind to practice on the field. It turns out that Yoo-jun keeps missing his shots, and this makes Hyungmin really frustrated. He starts questioning Yoo-jun, asking why he's still playing so badly even after training for an entire month. Yoo-jun then realizes that the coach probably told Hyungmin to help him because his kicks weren't strong enough compared to the players in Japan, but even knowing that doesn't stop him from feeling irritated and bothered by the situation. Yoo-jun tells Hyungmin to go ahead and try getting through the obstacles with just one shot, thinking that even someone as skilled as Hyungmin will probably find it difficult. But when Hyungmin takes his shot, he makes it through everything perfectly on his very first try. Watching that surprises Yoo-jun and motivates him to train even harder from now on. The next day, all the players gather at the stadium because they're going to watch the big match between South Korea and Germany. The match continues with the ball reaching to a player from the opposing team, who immediately runs straight toward Yoo-jun. He thinks that this player is definitely someone listed in Jiho's analysis. He recalls that the player's name is Thomas Richter, known as someone with top-level dribbling ability and strong individual skills. Yoo-jun also remembers noticing from the start of the match that Thomas's first breakthrough has an 87% chance of coming from the right side. Using this information, Yoo-jun manages to steal the ball from him in the blink of an eye and quickly realizes that Kim Jiho's data is truly reliable, helping him outplay and surpass Thomas in that moment. He then starts to wonder if Jiho's analysis really works together with his own skills at a world-class level, but before he can think further, a new opposing player named Luigi quickly catches up to him from behind. Yoo-jun then quickly recalls that he was told to watch out for his quick tackles. He then notices that a left foot comes straight toward him from the front and he can handle tackles by using the red zone properly. Just as he is about to react, Luigi suddenly kicks the ball out of Yoo-jun's control, which completely shocks him. After that, the match continues as players from the opposing team keep moving forward with the ball, but Yoo-jun cannot stop thinking about how Luigi is able to take the ball away from him so smoothly and cleanly every time. While running, he carefully thinks it over and starts to believe that the red zone system works in a clear and fixed order, where a black arrow first appears on the leg that is about to make the tackle, and then a red light slowly begins filling that arrow little by little. He realizes that the moment the red light completely fills the arrow is the exact timing when the tackle actually comes in and happens. Because of this, Yoo-jun starts to wonder if by closely watching the red zone, he can avoid the tackle by correctly reading which leg is coming, which direction it is aimed from and exactly when the tackle will arrive. However, even though Yoo-jun clearly sees the zone, he still ends up losing the ball, and unlike the players he faces during the Sendai Cup, the red light fills up extremely fast this time, giving him almost no time to react. Soon after, one of Yujun's teammates quickly passes the ball back to him, but Luigi once again catches up from behind, which makes Yujun realize that his current dribbling level is not high enough to fully avoid Luigi's tackles. Yujun then sees the red arrow appear again, but Luigi still manages to hit the ball cleanly and does not allow Yujun to break through at all. Because of this, Yujun quickly passes the ball to a teammate, but the pass stops awkwardly in the middle of the field. Just then, Jianga reaches the ball before an opponent can take it, easily runs past that player, and then quickly passes the ball to Seekjun. Seekjun tries to move forward with the ball, but a player from the opposing team quickly steals it from him and immediately sends a long pass down the field without hesitation. The ball reaches Oliver, who notices that someone is running straight toward him, so he quickly passes the ball to his striker, Max, to avoid pressure. However, before the ball can reach Max properly, Minsung suddenly appears from nowhere, intercepts the play and sends the ball straight toward Yujun instead. After receiving it, Yujun starts running forward and thinks that he will pass the ball over to Lee Jung-sik next to keep the attack going. Just then, Yujun notices a red arrow appearing on the ground, and at the same time, Luigi rushes in and tries to steal the ball from him again. Luigi then comments that Yujun has good senses and reactions but also makes it clear that Yujun will not be able to keep dodging and avoiding the ball forever. Yujun then starts seeing multiple zones appear at the same time, which makes him wonder what is going wrong with the situation, and right after that, Luigi begins throwing in tackles even though his timing seems messy and all over the place. Yujun's form starts breaking down completely and he does not even get a proper chance to turn with the ball or create space for himself. At that moment, two more players from Luigi's team rush in to press him, and Yujun thinks to himself that he can barely handle one opponent, so dealing with two more feels almost impossible. Suddenly, a golden zone appears on the ground, and Yujun becomes confused, wondering why it would show up at a time like this when he does not even have the time or freedom to check who is standing inside it. Yujun then decides to take a risk and passes the ball without even looking toward the open space, and to his surprise, the ball reaches Hyungmin perfectly, who looks shocked and wonders how Yujun manages to notice him from such a far distance. Seeing this sudden pass, the opposing players are caught off guard and start thinking that they are holding the offside line perfectly, so this situation should not have happened at all. Meanwhile, Yujun feels excited as he realizes it is a perfectly timed line-breaking run right on the offside line, and he is amazed by how incredible Hyungmin's off-the-ball movement is. Right after receiving the ball, Hyungmin takes a mid-range shot and sends it straight toward the goal, but the goalkeeper reacts quickly and manages to block the shot before it can go in. At the same time, a guy is watching the match from the VIP seatings, and he thinks that Yujun managed to fire a line-breaking pass in an instant, so he decides to keep an eye on him. The guy turns out to be Mark Nicol, Liverpool head scout. After that, it's halftime and neither team have scored even one goal yet. Yujun is feeling pretty tired and he starts thinking about how after that first chance he had, the golden zone showed up several times during the game, but almost half of those times, he either messes up the pass to his teammates or gets blocked by the defenders. The second half starts with Yujun running down the field with the ball, and when he sees the golden zone show up again, he tries to take a shot, but Thomas steps in and stops it before it gets to the goal. The match goes on and Yujun keeps trying his best to shoot the ball whenever he spots the golden zones appearing, but the other team's players keep blocking his shots or stopping them before they can work. Yujun thinks to himself that it makes no sense at all that his team has not been able to score on even one attack, but then all of a sudden, Luigi somehow gets the ball away from him. Luigi then runs past all the players quickly from Team Korea, and everyone think that Korea allowed them to reach the danger zone. So now they have to stop this here. Two players from the Korean team then blocks Luigi, and one of them thinks that the defensive positions are solid, but breaking through his trough is tough as there is a high chance that he'll pass back. Luigi then tries to do a left breakthrough, but then Luigi notices that a path is open between both the players, so he passes the ball right between them. Seeing this happen, the Korean player feels shocked and cannot understand how the ball manages to pass cleanly through such a tight gap. Soon after, the ball reaches Max, who takes an extremely powerful shot with full force, but the Korean goalkeeper reacts quickly and successfully blocks the shot once again. After this play, Team Germany earns a free kick, and as Yujun watches closely, he starts thinking about how Luigi is able to pull off that earlier pass without even relying on a visible zone, which makes him seem like an incredible and dangerous player. However, it does not stop there, because when Yujun looks at Luigi's overall ability in dribbling, defending, and passing, he realizes that Luigi is operating on a completely different level compared to most players on the field. Meanwhile, Shea FC's chief scout, Dean Reeves, asks Mark whether Germany ends up scoring. Reeves then tells Mark that the match result between Germany and Korea is actually very clear and easy to predict, which makes him wonder why Mark is paying such close attention to this specific game instead of treating it like an ordinary match. However, Mark asks Reeves if he actually knows the reason why the U-17 League, which does not bring in any profits or popularity at all, is still managing to exist and stay around. Mark explains that every once in a while, a player like Yoojun shows up and catches people's attention, but Reeves responds by saying that there is nothing really notable or special about Yoojun in any of the reports he has read, so he wants to know what exactly caught Mark's eye about this player. Right at that moment, the German player starts running straight towards Yoojun while controlling the ball, but Yoojun manages to read the play and steal the ball away from him successfully, which makes Reeves start thinking that Yoojun's defense skills look like they are about a B+ level. Reeve then continues watching Yoojun play and thinks that he has an awkward form, and for short passes he gives him a B+, but for long passes, he doesn't think Yoojun is quite ready for the main squad yet. He then tells Mark that he is barely good enough to maybe make it to the second team. However, Mark tells him that now is when Yoojun is going to show his real talent. Yoojun then enters the opponent's box now that there is not much time left till the end. Team Germany then makes a defensive wall in front of goal, and they are leaving only minimal men moving, and everyone is sticking to the goal. Yoojun then gets worried and wonders how he is supposed to get the ball past this defense. All of a sudden, the golden zone shows up once again on the other side of the field, and Yoojun starts thinking to himself that if he ends up losing the ball right now, the tall German players will definitely get to it because of their height advantage, and he knows he cannot even try to break through using his dribbling skills in this situation. While watching this happen, Reeve comments out loud that the angle is not there at all for a good play, so he wonders what Yoojun is waiting around and stalling for, since he should be quickly looking for and finding a new route to pass or move the ball. At that moment, Yoojun suddenly decides to shoot the ball all the way across the field towards the golden zone, and this move completely surprises and shocks Reeve as he watches the ball travel through the air towards Hyungmin, who then receives it and immediately shoots the ball straight towards the goal without any hesitation. The goalkeeper tries to stop it but completely misses the ball, and it goes flying straight inside the net, which means that Team Korea ends up winning the entire match. Reeve sits there thinking to himself that while Yoojun's other skills on the field might be below average or not that impressive, his goal-making ability and his talent for creating scoring opportunities is definitely at an A+ level, or maybe even higher than that. On their way back, the Korean team's coach tells them that there is no training today or tomorrow, so they get plenty of rest, but none of the players shows any interest. He notices that everyone looks pretty down. Yoojun also realizes that everyone must have felt the difference in level during today's match and how the team won as a group, but individually, everyone lost. He thinks that more than half of the German players are world-renowned prospects, so if they are aiming higher, basically, everyone's a rival. Yoojun then thinks that it's frustrating, but he will admit it and improve his skills as there is nothing else he can do. Later that night, Yoojun approaches Jianggu, who was drinking water, and asks Yoojun if he wants some too, but Yoojun asks him to teach him dribbling. The next morning, Yoojun and Jianggu heads out, and Yoojun thinks that he never notices Jianggu because he's usually so quiet, but the skills and dribbling he showed in Germany wasn't normal. Yoojun then notices that they are heading to the wrong side, so he tells Jiangsu that the training ground isn't the way they are heading. However, Jiangsu takes him to the market, but Yoojun asks how this is a training ground. Jiangsu tells him that this is the place where his dribbling has improved. In a flashback, bunch of kids are playing soccer on the field, but then they are short on one player. They decide to look around and see if anyone wants to join, so they ask two boys, and one of them is Jiangsu. Jiangsu asks the group of kids if he can join them and play soccer as well, but the kids respond by telling him that they only need one more person to complete their team, and they also mention that Jiangsu's dribbling skills are not really that great or good either. The kids then decide to choose Jiangsu's friend to join them instead of picking Jiangsu, so Jiangsu just quickly makes up an excuse by saying that he has to go back and help out at his mother's store anyway, so they can all go ahead and play soccer among themselves without him. Jiangsu then goes back to his mother's shop, and when he arrives, his mother asks why he comes home so early today, especially since she clearly tells him earlier to go outside and play with his friends during the afternoon. Jiangsu explains that all of his friends are busy doing other things right now and are not free to play, so his mother tells him that since he is already back, he should go to the store in front and buy some fresh cabbage for her. Jiangsu then starts walking to buy the cabbage his mother asks for, and thinks to himself that he really wants to play soccer with everyone just like other kids do, but he never has enough time to practice or even play properly because he is always busy helping out at his mother's shop. He also feels a little sad when he realizes that he does not even own his own soccer ball that he can use to practice and improve his skills. As he continues walking down the street, Jiangsu suddenly notices something on the ground and spots a soccer ball that is lying there alone beside a pile of trash. Yoojun quickly picks up the ball and starts thinking to himself that he really wants to kick the ball around so badly right now, but then he remembers that he also has to go and get the errands done for his family as well. He then grabs the ball and stands right in the middle of the busy market area, and he begins thinking that if he can manage to avoid bumping into the adults while he is doing this, he can run the errands that he needs to do and also improve his dribbling skills at the same time, and if he keeps doing that over and over, he will be able to play soccer with his friends later. A lot of time goes by, and at first when he starts doing this, it takes him more than 5 whole minutes just to go to the house that is right in front of him, but after repeating this practice and routine over and over again for several years, he eventually gets so good at it that he can cross the entire market from one end all the way to the other. Back in the present, Jiangsu then demonstrates his moves as he dribbles through a bunch of adults who are walking around in the crowded area, and this makes Yoojun think to himself that Jiangsu's movements look so clean, smooth and efficient. Jiangsu then hands the ball to Yoojun and tells him that the goal is to move through the market without bumping into anyone at all. Yoojun starts moving with the ball and thinks that the people around him are slow, so avoiding them feels easy, which makes him wonder if this kind of training is really useful or if he should just go to the training grounds instead. All of a sudden, some kids run straight into Yoojun, and right after that, others start trying to break his balance by hitting him with different objects. Instead of getting upset, Yoojun thinks to himself that this situation is actually perfect custom training for him, and he believes that if he keeps doing this, he will definitely master his dribbling training. Later that night, Yoojun returns to his bed feeling completely exhausted, and while resting, he receives a phone call from Kim Jiho. She tells him that their agency receives a call earlier and that a football club from England contacts them, which greatly shocks Yoojun because he thinks that he has only played one match so far, yet someone from England is already reaching out to him. She then adds that the club contacting them is a Premier League team from the first division, which leaves Yoojun even more stunned. However, Yoojun feels that it is strange for a famous Premier League club like Liverpool to contact him after just one game, because it feels far too fast. He then asks her if the contract details have arrived as well, but Jiho explains that it is not an official offer yet, since they only asked about his current affiliation. After hearing this, Yoojun asks what that really means, so she explains that big clubs like Liverpool have many steps they must go through before they can make a formal offer to a player. Before all of those steps are completed, he should think of this as them simply marking him as someone to watch. She also adds that it is more accurate to say they are only showing interest for now, because in many cases, things do not move past this stage. Yoojun thinks that he gets excited for nothing and feels that this only means he has to work even harder than before. Jiho tells him not to push himself too much and says that if he just keeps his current form, those clubs will definitely contact him again. The next day, the U-17 Cup Group D match takes place, with Korea facing off against Senegal. The commentators say that the Korean team shocked the world by defeating Germany, and now it is time for them to keep that strong momentum going. Today, their opponent is Senegal, a team known for strong physical strength and great speed, and with a 3-forward formation, aggressive play is expected. Meanwhile, Reeve thinks that today's match looks like it will be very exciting to watch, and he notices that there are many more observers than usual this time. Mark says it must be because Korea beat Germany, but Reeve asks him if he thinks Yoojun will make something magical happen today as well. Mark thinks to himself that the Germany game that Korea played was being called a real miracle among all the scouts who watched it, so now everyone is going to see and find out whether Yoojun's performance was just pure luck or if it was actually his real skill. The match then keeps going with Team Senegal currently having possession, and their main midfielder player named Papa starts thinking that the Korean players are not really threatening or dangerous at all once their passes get cut off. Pappas then decides to pass the ball over to one of his teammates on the field, and Yoojun thinks that he is going to intercept the ball before it even gets to the player who is supposed to receive it. He realizes that this is the exact same tactic and strategy that the Japan team used against Rennes in their previous match. However, Yoojun also thinks to himself that even though the Senegal team prepared and came up with a counter strategy to use against him, they ended up picking and choosing the wrong target to focus on. Yoojun then quickly charges towards the player who is about to receive the ball, and this sudden and fast movement makes Pappas think that the Korean players are getting desperate and frantic now, so he makes the decision that he will just stick to Yoojun and keep marking him as many times as he needs to throughout this entire game. The game then moves past the midpoint of the second half, and the score is still sitting at 0-0 with non-stop action and play happening on the field the entire time without any breaks. Pappas keeps following Yoojun around everywhere on the field and starts wondering to himself if Yoojun ever gets tired or runs out of energy at all. Yoojun notices that Pappas is eventually starting to reach his limit and is getting worn out from all the running. While watching all of this happen on the field, the scouts who are sitting up in the VIP section start thinking to themselves that they heard there is a promising and talented midfielder from the Korea team, so they skipped all the other games. But so far he just seems like a standard box-to-box midfielder and nothing really special or impressive. All of a sudden, the scouts get completely shocked to see that Yoojun manages to break through the entire defense line, and the ball then gets passed over to Yoojun, who can finally see and spot the golden zone appearing right in front of him on the field. Yoojun then quickly kicks the ball towards the golden zone area, and the ball gets to Yoojun's teammate, who quickly shoots a goal straight into the net. While watching that, all the scouts in the VIP section get surprised and start wondering out loud what kind of killer pass that was. Reeve then turns toward Mark and tells him that the pass is completely insane and unbelievable, saying that it looks like Yoojun can clearly see exactly where the goal will open up even before it actually happens on the field. As Mark listens, he thinks to himself that Yoo-jun has finally proven to everyone that Korea's earlier victory over Germany is not just simple luck, but the result of real skill and ability. He also believes that Yoo-jun has now fully shown his true talent to all the scouts who are watching the match closely, and that the only question left now is which professional club will approach him first and make an official offer. Soon after, the match comes to an end with Korea securing a victory over Senegal, and all the players on the field are left in shock, unable to believe that Korea has managed to defeat both Germany and Senegal in the group stage. With this unexpected result, the Korean team successfully advances to the round of 16 in the tournament. The next day, Korean team's coach is watching the footage of yesterday's match and thinks that Yoo-jun is the one who solved the problems of these qualifiers. The coach thinks that he knew Yoo-jun was special, but he didn't expect him to be this outstanding. Just then, Mark shows up and introduces himself to the coach, saying he is a scout from Liverpool. On the other hand, Yoo-jun is practicing his dribbling in the market, where he bumps into someone and loses his balance. He goes crazy and says that now he has to start all over again. Yoo-jun then thinks that his biggest problem is even when he sees the golden zone, he loses timing while trying to dodge big with the tackle. So, he needs to keep his center and only shallowly dodge the opponent's tackle, so he can immediately kick the ball right into the zone. Yoo-jun then sets the ball back on the ground and thinks to himself that as long as he keeps going and doesn't give up, he will eventually reach his goal. Just then, the coach appears and the two of them have a conversation while eating some fresh fruit. The coach tells Yoo-jun that if he continues doing dribbling practice with Jiangsu, then attends team training sessions and follows that up with individual practice on top of everything else, he is going to completely wear himself out and risk exhausting his body. Yoo-jun looks up at the coach and asks him what brought him to the market area today, and the coach responds by asking if Yoo-jun remembers the conversation they had not too long ago, where the coach asked him about his plans and goals for his future career. Yoo-jun says that he remembers reminding the coach that he wanted to become a professional player and compete at the highest level in soccer. Hearing this, the coach then reveals that a scout from Liverpool recently came to watch him play and wanted to gather more information about Yoo-jun and his skills on the field. The coach goes on to explain to Yoo-jun that scouts sometimes talk directly to coaches like him to learn more about promising talents and players who might have potential. After explaining all of that, the coach tells Yoo-jun that he really does not want him to go to Liverpool if they make him an offer. Hearing that, Yoo-jun realizes why the coach is saying this to him, because the current star player at Liverpool is a legendary player who has a full hexagonal ability chart with perfect stats in every category, and that legendary player plays exactly the same position that Yoo-jun plays on the field. Yoo-jun then asks him if he don't think that he will be able to play as starter, but the coach says that Liverpool is a great opportunity, but considering his skill and situation, he is not sure it's the best choice for him. The coach then continues by saying that it will take quite a while and a long time for Yoo-jun to become a regular starter on the Liverpool team, and Yoo-jun would have to seriously consider switching positions if he goes there, so the coach asks Yoo-jun if he has thought of any other teams that might be interested in him. Yoo-jun then starts thinking to himself that he does have standard and specific criteria for what kind of team he wants to join, and his ideal club would be something like Manchester City. Yoo-jun wants to join a team that is currently underrated and not very well known, but one that will grow and develop explosively in the near future, eventually attracting many top players and stars to make it a great club. The coach then tells Yoo-jun that, besides Liverpool, another team from the French league has also reached out and contacted him, and that team is called Paris Saint-Germain. Yoo-jun starts thinking to himself that Paris Saint-Germain is not very strong or impressive at the moment, but in just a few years, huge investments and money will flow into the club, transforming them into a powerhouse team. He feels that this could be a real opportunity for him, and he asks the coach if he can go back inside the building first to think it over carefully. Without waiting any longer, Yoo-jun runs straight back inside, thinking that Paris Saint-Germain will eventually become a major club in the future, but their rise to the top will likely happen about 1 to 2 years later than Manchester City's rise. On the other hand, Jiho is actually having her lunch when she receives a call from Yoo-jun, who asks her if she heard from Paris Saint-Germain. Jiho asks him how he knew and says that actually a few other teams reached out recently as well. Furthermore, she explains that she plans to update him with all the detailed information by tomorrow. Yoo-jun then asks her whether Paris sends a formal offer yet, but she replies that they do not send one for now, although they ask many more questions than Liverpool does and also say that they will contact them again very soon. She goes on to explain that a contract could arrive soon, and that a player usually does not receive a contract immediately after getting interest, but he can most likely request a provisional contract instead. After hearing this, Yoo-jun tells her that there is one specific clause he wants included in the provisional contract, which is a guaranteed playing time clause. He believes that there is nothing more valuable than this clause for a young and promising talent, and that it is the best possible way for an unknown and inexperienced player to build and grow their career properly. The next day, there is a match happening at Namdi Stadium between the Korea team and the Argentina team. The ball is currently with an Argentina player named Navila, who is going up against Juchan on the field. Navila then gets past Juchon quickly and easily with his skills, but the crowd in the stadium starts cheering loudly for the Korean players to encourage them. Sitting in the crowd, Yoojun watches the match carefully and thinks to himself that this is the final group stage game against Argentina, and since the Korean team already secures their place in the round of 16, the coach decides to send out the second team for this match. Even though Argentina is a very strong team and Korea is playing with mostly second-team players, the score stays at 0 for Korea while Argentina already scores 3 goals. As Yoojun continues watching, he thinks that Korea's defensive line looks very poor and is not performing well at all, but the bigger issue he notices is that the team is not attacking in this match. He also notices that the player currently playing in his usual position is Juchon, and while Yoojun believes Juchon is a solid player overall, he feels that Juchon does not read space on the field well enough and cannot make the right passes to create chances. Because the midfield is not opening up attacks, the ball keeps getting stuck in the defense and never moves forward toward the attack. Moreover, Yoojun understands that if the midfielder who controls the play and acts as the playmaker breaks down or fails, then the entire team will also fall apart along with him. Because of this realization, Yoojun believes that his position has a huge impact on how the whole team performs, and from this moment on, he feels that he needs to work harder than ever and play with even more responsibility. Soon after, the match comes to an end with Argentina winning, and the coach congratulates everyone for finishing first in their group and making it through successfully. Yoojun thinks to himself that this is the first time in his life that he reaches the round of 16, and the feeling makes him believe that he can now challenge and defeat anyone. After that, the coach announces that Korea will face England in the next match of the tournament. England is known as a country that is deeply invested in football, often called the birthplace of the sport, and they consistently produce great players through their strong youth system. The main player everyone needs to watch out for is Harry Kane, the star who dominates the world stage up until the moment Yoojun dies in 2023. Yoojun then starts wondering to himself why Harry Kane is on the roster and lineup, and he admits that he does not know all the details about it, but even without Harry Kane playing, this lineup is still at a busted level of strength and power. Later that night when practice time comes around, Yoojun practices his kicks and shooting skills on the ground by himself. During his practice session, Yoojun also manages to shoot a curveball that travels through the air and goes straight into the net successfully. However, after watching that shot, Hyungmin tells Yoojun that his shooting really did improve a little bit compared to before. After hearing that compliment come out of Hyungmin's mouth, Yoojun turns to him and asks him if he is feeling sick or something, because he wants to know why Hyungmin is suddenly complimenting him out of nowhere like this. Hyungmin then responds by telling Yoojun that he is still lacking quite a lot in his technique, explaining that the ball is not curving enough in the air, and the main reason for this is that Yoojun is not putting enough strength and power into his ankle when he kicks the ball. After pointing this out, Hyungmin tells Yoojun to try the shot again and practice it one more time so he can fix the problem. Yoojun listens carefully and shoots the ball again with more force than before, but Hyungmin points out that Yoojun's plant foot is shaking when he takes the shot, which affects his balance and accuracy. Yoojun keeps practicing his shooting again, pushing himself until he becomes extremely tired and his body feels heavy. While practicing, Yoojun thinks to himself that if it is this hard even when he is training seriously, then he cannot imagine how a monster-like player such as Hyungmin manages to perform like this in every single match. Seeing how exhausted Yoojun is, Hyungmin finally tells him that they should stop for today since he is already about to crash out and suggests that they go out together and eat something to recover. However, Yoojun tells him that he has something to say, but Hyungmin tells him to make it quick as he has to eat because he is hungry. The next day, it is the match between the Korea team and the England team, and everyone in the stadium is excited and eager to see which team will defeat the other team and advance forward to the quarterfinals of the tournament. Yoojun thinks to himself that today's match against England is more important than any other match they have played so far in this competition. The Premier League is England's top professional soccer league, and it naturally has the highest number of English players competing in it compared to any other league. Yoojun believes strongly that the big clubs will definitely send scouts to this match to check the condition and performance of their players, which means that all the top prospects and talented players will be watched closely by the big clubs during this game. On the other hand, Mark turns to Reeves and asks him who he thinks will win this match between Korea and England, so Reeves responds by saying that he will bet his money on England to win. Mark points out that Reeves was so eager and excited to sign Yoojun from the Korea team, but now he is choosing England to win the match instead. Afterward, the head-to-head showdown match between England and South Korea has finally begun, and everyone in the stadium is excited to see what kind of drama and action will unfold on this grand stage today. One of England's players then gets control of the ball, and he starts thinking to himself that there is nowhere safe to dump the ball and pass it right now, but then he suddenly notices one of his teammates making a run. The teammate quickly runs forward on the field to receive the ball, but just as the Korean player tries to stick to him and mark him closely, the English player quickly dodges him by using a clever feint move, and the Korean player realizes right away that this opponent's off-the-ball movement skills are really good and impressive. The ball then gets passed forward to an English player named Jerry, but Yoo-jun immediately moves and rushes to cut off the pass before it reaches him. Just as Yoo-jun is about to intercept and get the ball away, Jerry shoots and passes the ball quickly towards his teammate before Yoo-jun can stop him. It turns out that Jerry has excellent off-the-ball movement abilities and strong ankle power, and from those strengths stems his threatening mid-range shots and his tempo dribbling skills, which all make him a top-class player on the field. Jerry then gets the ball passed back to him, and he does a quick one-touch pass back to his teammate, who then shoots a mid-range shot towards the goal, but the ball hits the post and bounces away. After watching that, Yoo-jun starts to think that the ball keeps lingering and stays in the defensive formation area, and he needs to break it open and create opportunities from the midfield position. After that, Yoo-jun runs straight forward with the ball and starts wondering to himself if the special training he has been doing will really work in this match. One of England's players then tries to steal and take the ball away from him, but Yoo-jun dodges him with his skills, so then another English player appears, and now Yoo-jun finds himself stuck between both players from both sides. The two players try to do fierce tackles on Yoo-jun from the front and back at the same time, but Yoo-jun slips past them with ease and makes it look simply. Yoo-jun then gets relieved and thinks to himself that by dodging narrowly and barely getting through, he managed to get some room to breathe and space to work with. Yoo-jun then decides to pass the ball forward to Jiangsu, and now Korea's attack and offensive play begins to develop on the field. From the sidelines, a man talks to his partner and says that no matter how he looks at the match, the winner already seems decided because the gap in quality between the teams is simply too large, and South Korea does not even appear to have any truly decent players. He goes on to explain that Chairman Gamdong tells him to make sure the director watches this match, so he plans to stay and watch it himself and tells the other person that he should go and get some proper rest instead. The partner then asks if it would not be better to watch the game comfortably from the VIP room, but the man responds by asking him how long he has been working at their club. The younger man answers that he has been working there for about half a year, and after hearing this, the older man explains that talented players can often be spotted just by looking at statistics and data sheets. However, he adds that real players, the ones who can truly change the future, only show their true value on the field, surrounded by sweat, effort, and the cheers of the crowd. The guy further adds that they can't see that scorching air, those trembling eyes, the crossroads between giving up and fighting on from behind a glass window. The guy turns out to be Gary, Manchester United Academy director. Last night, Yoo-jun told Hyungmin that when he gives him the signal, he should make a run in behind this player and he will definitely pass it to him. Back in the present, Hyungmin wonders how he is supposed to get past such a big and strong body and still manage to break through into the box. He then realizes that the defender in front of him is Harry Maguire, the same player Yoo-jun warns him about the night before. Hyungmin also thinks that at this short distance, he will be caught almost immediately, but he knows he has no choice and must start running now to match Yoo-jun's timing. Trusting Yoo-jun completely, Hyungmin suddenly sprints forward on the field, but Harry does not give up easily and keeps sticking close to him, following tightly as Hyungmin runs toward the goal at full speed. At the same time, Yoo-jun thinks that there is a clear reason why he tells Hyungmin to cut in behind Harry, even though he knows Harry will chase him the moment he runs. In the year 2023, everyone knows about Harry's weakness, which is the space that often opens up behind him during matches, along with his slow speed when tracking back. Using this knowledge, Yoo-jun quickly sends a sharp forward pass to Hyungmin, who controls the ball and immediately fires a powerful right-footed mid-range shot. The ball flies through the air and crashes into the net, allowing Korea to finally score a goal against England. After that, everyone on the Korean team starts celebrating the goal together, and Hyungmin runs over to Yoo-jun and tells him that he knew the entire time that Harry would not be able to follow him at all. On the other hand, a scout named Gary thinks that it was a straight and resolute pass from Yoo-jun, as if the goal was guaranteed to happen, and that kind of decisiveness is not something that people see from a rookie player. Now Gary knows he has to make a phone call because he wants to sign Yoo-jun to his club. How high do you think Yoo-jun's potential can truly go? Will he choose PSG, Liverpool, or will another club get in line? Comment, Striker, if you'd like a part 2 of the series. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more sports manhwa recaps.